Docs in the Grunt. As usual, I am Dr. Luis Fonseca, U.S. Navy Hospital Corpsman retired. I spent 22 years on active duty. During my tenure, I was involved in the Battle of Al Nazariya on March 23rd of 2003. Due to my actions that day, I was subsequently awarded the Navy Cross. And up next is my partner Nate.
And I'm Nate Emery. I'm your token grunt. I have 33 years in DoD, the 22 in the Marine Corps, and my combat tours were in Operation Desert Storm and Mogadishu, Somalia, in the infantry. And before we get to Doc Berry, I'm going to give you a bio on our guest tonight, Joe Hardebeck. Chief Hardebeck, born and raised in Indiana. He's got almost 19 years in the Navy, so he's currently on active duty. And it all started back in December 2006. He enlisted, and then it was just shortly after he went to high school, or graduated from high school. His A school, and he went to A school and then Field Medical Service C school. And then in October 2007, he was joined the 2nd Marine Division of Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where he was attached to 1st Battalion, 6th Marine Regiment. His subsequent tours have been at Naval Medical Center Portsmouth, Combat Logistics Regiment 25, Naval Branch Health Clinic Lakehurst, Medicine Readiness and Training Unit Earl, 1st Marine Division at Camp Pendleton, Expeditionary Medical Facility 150 Bravo, Detachment Lemoore, and then in August 2025, reported to Recruit Training Command in Great Lakes, Illinois, back where he started.
Yeah.
he's uh, He's qualified as enlisted Fleet Marine Force warfare specialist in both ground combat element and the logistics combat element. He was selected as the Navy's Angel of the Battlefield for 2024, and he holds an Associates of Arts degree. Um, he's got multiple combat deployments and operational tours. His first operational tour, or his first combat deployment was Operation Enduring Freedom to Afghanistan in 2008, where he was a platoon corpsman. And then he went back to Afghanistan for a second tour, 2009 to 2010, as a senior line corpsman. And then he had a deployment with Joint Task Force Guantanamo Bay, Cuba in 2019, where he served in support of detainee operations. And then he deployed again to Operation Inherent Resolve in Iraq from 2023 to 2024 as a leading petty officer. Um, Personal decorations: Purple Heart, Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal with 2 gold stars, Army Commendation Medal with the C device, Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal, 3 gold stars, Combat Action Ribbon with 1 gold star, and Meritorious Outstanding Volunteer Service Medal. And then, as you could expect with that kind of a tour, he's got numerous unit and campaign awards. Thank you for shortening that. So before we start with Joe, we'll switch over to Doc Berry.
Hi, folks. My name is Andrew Barry, also known as Doc Barry. I am a psychologist and psychoanalyst, and I specialize in working with veterans and first responders battling post traumatic stress disorder and other related issues. Um, I found Joe, or Joe found me on Facebook, and I got a real good vibe once I saw. Once I saw his rack, boy, does that sound personal. And I thought combat. He's got the look in his eye, and I reached out and I asked him if he was into promoting mental health, and he bounced back with it. He answered me almost instantly. He says, "He sure is." He said, "I sure am." And I said, "Well, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is two docs and a grunt. This is who we are. This is what we do. Are you interested?" And to make a long story long, he signed up with us. So much appreciate you signing up with us tonight, and very open to talk about just about anything. So, hallelujah. Welcome aboard, my man.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's a privilege to be here. Hopefully, we have a great discussion. I'm excited to see how this goes. Thank you for the intro. Make me sound super crazy good, but I appreciate that. Thanks. So, yeah,
It's always weird to hear your own bio, isn't it?
it is. It really is. I'm so sorry. This dog. Go, buddy. All right. It is always interesting. It humbles me a little bit because it doesn't always feel like 19 years. But then you read a bio and you're like, man, I've been some places. It's been around, and I'm sure as all of us can attest, sometimes it feels like it was a blip. And then sometimes we get up and our back goes, nope, that was a full 18 years, 19 years. So, you know, so that's just kind of where it's at these days.
Right
Yeah.
on. And did you and so George, you always come in wanting to be a hospital corpsman?
I did. It's actually an interesting story. I say interesting, but really funny. So my uncle did over 20 years in the Army. And when I was in high school, I did Marine Corps ROTC and silent drill. And so I only went there because I got kicked out of a class. And instead of going to study hall, they put me in ROTC. So, because I was a super great student. Um, but no, I started there and I enjoyed the discipline of it. I had a retired mass sergeant that was just a great mentor at the time. I needed somebody that was firm and direct, but just compassionate. And he had a lot of that. He was kind of a dick most of the time, but you could see that he cared. It came from a good place, you know? And so I had that, but I still was like, I'll never join the service. Um, Junior senior year comes around, as we all know, it's like we're looking towards college, and I played football, and I in my ignorance didn't realize that taking student loans would be mine. I thought they would be my mother's responsibility, and I didn't want to do that to her. So I was like, screw it, I'm gonna go to the military. And so that's where I called my uncle, and he said, what do you want to do? And I said medicine, because medicine is something that's, I'm a nosy person, to be honest. I like to know what's going on. I like to know I like to be in the end, and so I was like, I like medicine, and everybody always stares at car accidents when you drive by, and I always think about not what happened, but how the people are, and it's just kind of an itch I had. So I knew that right away, and so he said, "Don't join the Air Force." And as we all know, he's like, you will, or as the phrase always goes, the chair force, right? So that was his opinion back then as well. Um, he said don't join the army because he had some bad experiences with his own army medics, and so he said don't do that. And so he said I'm pretty sure the Marine Corps, the Navy does their medical, but I'm not 100% sure. So between those two, go check them out. I said all right. And he said anything O3, run. And I said all right, because he was a mechanic, so he was like run. So I go to the Marine Corps, of course, first, and I talked to this gunny for a little while, and probably about an hour, and he just kept throwing O3 at me, O3 at me, O3 at me. And I was like, look, man, I was like, and I'm full of piss of vinegar. I'm 18, 19 years old, and I'm like, look, man, I was like, if it's not medicine and that's not my full-time job, I don't want it. And he's, get the fuck out. And he just told me to go next door. And where I lived at, all Air Force, Army, Marine Corps, and Navy were like in one hallway in this like strip mall. And so
Yeah.
I just walked next door, sat on the couch, and was there about another hour before a second class noticed me and signed me right up. So sorry that was long winded, but
An
that's how
hour?
I ended up here.
No, no, no. That's it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah.
corpsman is what I wanted. Yes.
You know, so guys, this is the first other corpsman we've ever had on, huh?
Oh, really?
No,
We had medics on, haven't we? But not corpsmen.
no, no. Mitchell Can has been on with
Oh,
us at least once, if not twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mitch is
that's
corpsman
right.
too. Yep.
This is
But
the
yeah,
only
in
other.
3 years, it's odd that you're only the second one.
Oh, and then we had no, we did have my buddy that came on with us when Nate couldn't come on, like 3 weeks ago.
Oh,
Now I was just gonna say that
oh,
it's a refreshing breath of fresh air to have a fellow doc, in the room where we can relate so much, especially both of us have been greenside. It sounds like your story started off exactly kind of the same way mine did. I went to the Marine Corps recruiter's office as a high school dropout and
Oh.
figured that the Marines could take an idiot, right? And quickly found out that they don't have a medical profession.
Yep.
And my Marine Corps recruiter though tried to make me go motor T because I guess that's what he was in the Marine Corps. And it was
Of
like,
course.
oh, when you get out, you could be a master mechanic, you could do this, do that. But it was the same thing. I was like, nah, if it's not medicine, bro, like I'm good, man.
I'm out.
Um,
Yep.
so real quick, Joe, you're still active duty, right?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. So one thing we forgot to put on in the very beginning, I'll go ahead and mention the disclaimers now, everyone. Please, please, as always, remember, although Doc Barry is a licensed psychologist and psychoanalyst, he is not your licensed psychologist or psychoanalyst. So if anything comes up during this interview that might trigger you or make you feel a certain type of way, please, we always encourage you to go see your mental health team or your primary care manager as well. although myself, Nate, and Doc Barry are out of service already, Joe is, and everything that we discussed today is our own personal opinions and views. None of us here speak for Department of Defense or Department of War, whatever you want to call it nowadays. These are our personal opinions and views. And Joe, please, please, please do not hesitate to stop us if we might cross into territory where you just do not feel comfortable speaking on behalf because you are still in uniform.
Sure,
Absolutely, we
sure.
will respect all of that.
Yeah,
So
no, I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. So came into the Navy and you went straight to Hospital Corpsman A school and then Field Medical Service School.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, the real core school across the street here in Great Lakes,
Right
and
on.
then and then I did field med at Camp Johnson out by Camp Lejeune.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. I went to as well. So did you know that Camp Johnson is also the home of the Montfort Point Marines?
I did not.
Yeah, that's a lot of history there.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
for our viewers that are watching, the Point Marines were the first African American or Black Marines after the president allowed African Americans or Black Americans, whatever is political correct. I don't know anymore, dude. Um, to join
I
the
get it. I
service.
get
You
it.
know, it's like
There's so much PC anymore. Yep. Yep.
yeah,
Sorry.
Dark
Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah,
green.
yeah. Right on. And so
So did you?
right out of go ahead, Nate. Go
Oh,
ahead.
I just asked Joe. Did you? When did you decide, or when were you told that you were gonna be a, I guess a greenside corpsman
okay.
versus
So
for the Navy?
yeah, yeah. So obviously I came in 2006, and so back then, as we know, most of us were, if you were a male, you were going greenside. And so when I went to Corps school, I had no true understanding of the connection between the Navy and the Marine Corps. I didn't even know that the Marine Corps was a department of the Navy until I joined the Navy. Um, and I thought they were their own thing, as most folks don't realize that until they join the service. And so I went to Corps school, and while there, I don't know if Luis, you went several years before I did, but when I went, we had those 13 tests, and you had to, as you went through the pipeline, there's a certain point where you go to pick orders. And I went early, and the only thing left was greenside. And at that point, we hear all the rumors and all the stuff from our instructors who have all already been over there, some of them, and they're
Yeah.
very gung ho, very motivated, and so I learned about that culture. But for me, I was nervous. I wanted to go to a hospital first, get some experience, and then go greenside. That was my thought process. I go in this room in the rotunda there at Real Corps School to get my orders, and I went too early and I tried to leave because all that was left was greenside, and I got caught. And so the career counselor then gave me orders directly to greenside. So that's how I landed there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's basically how it worked out with us as well too. When we got to that part of it though, I think it was like around test 10 or 11, right? Somewhere around there.
Yeah, well,
We
it's
got a
supposed to be.
we got a dream sheet, and in that dream sheet, you got to pick your top three places that if you had, your wish is my command type of deal. This is where they'll send you to. Well, my instructors knew that I just want to go with the Marines, so they said, Fonseca, just put FMF. And so I put each letter in each block. I get stationed freaking an hour and a half away from home for the next 8 years. And I was probably also the only person in my class because I grew up as an army brat that I was like, dude, get me the fuck out of the United States. Send me somewhere cool. Send me somewhere, like overseas. They're like, oh, you want to go green side? Just put FMF. Gotta go. Next 8 years. Camp Lejeune, here we come.
I loved Camp Lejeune when I was there. I did.
Well, I did too because A, it was home, but B, because I also knew like just get away from Jacksonville, North Carolina, and you got the Emerald Coast right there. World known coast, great diving, great snorkeling. You got the mountains to 4.5, 5 hours away, and everything in between. So I do miss home. I live now here in California, but I miss home. I miss North Carolina. Where are you living at or stationed at right now, Joe?
I'm up at Great Lakes. I'm at boot camp.
Oh, okay. That's why
I'm
you
a
said
I'm a
you.
I'm a red rope. Yep.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
right on,
Yeah.
man. That's amazing. I there's things that you look back in your Navy career, and I understand why people say like, oh, I don't have regrets because everything I've been through is what's made me who I am today,
Yeah.
and like I I understand that sentiment, but I do have regrets. They're not regrets like, oh, boo-hoo is me. I'm gonna cry over it, and sorrow in my own whatever, mellow my own sorrows, right? But yeah, like that is one thing that either being an RDC, what you Nate and Doc Bear, you guys might know as a drill instructor, in the Navy call them RDCs. Either being an RDC or an A school instructor is one of the two things I never got to do in my career that I wish now I would have been smart enough to have gone to do. But every time orders came up, I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. No, I'm good. I'll get in trouble.
Yeah. I always wanted to go back to field med. When I went through field med, and I was as an E2, I made E2 in field med,
Oh,
and
right on.
yeah, and I wanted to go back immediately. I was like, I want to come back because I have a passion for teaching. I didn't really find that until years later, but um, I tried to go back, and I had a good mentor of mine probably a year and a half or two ago, and I've been for years been trying to go back, trying to go to field med, and just the stars hadn't aligned. I was an E5 for 9.5 years, so I had to make certain moves to make sure I could try to get 6 so I could
Yeah.
retire, and all that fun stuff. And my mentor was like, "Do you want to impact just corpsmen or the whole Navy?" And he knows
Yep.
my personality, and I was like, "Damn it, man!" So I dropped a package. dropped a package for so I dropped a package for RDC in February, in the beginning, at the end of January, February. I had hard copy orders by the end of February, in about a
Yeah.
month, and then they pulled me 8 months early for my last command to come out here, and
Okay.
so they were hurting bad for RDCs. We're doing okay now. There's quite a few of us, but it's just a constant cycle out here, and it's all the
Right.
rates. It's not just corpsmen, which is most of my career has been only corpsmen, as you know, Luis. We're always
Mhm.
surrounded by our own. So it's refreshing. I've learned a ton, which I love,
Yeah.
and man, and you get to have that impact. I've got one division under my belt. I just graduated 3 weeks ago, and man,
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, seeing them graduate is just it
Yeah.
makes it all worth it. All the long hours, it makes it worth it.
I bet. Do you know Nick Mann out there?
I do. I know Nick Mann very well. Yeah, he was at Lemoore when I got there, and
Okay.
then he left to RTC, and then I followed him about 2 years later. So he's still here.
Gotcha.
He's still here hanging out.
Yeah, yeah. So Doc,
He just graduated last week.
yep, a class on Friday. Yep. So Doc Barry and Nick Mann is a good corpsman buddy of mine, and as well as Joe's. Obviously, he's a chief as well. I met him in 2011, I believe, 2011, 2012, when I went with 3-3 to Afghanistan. So him and I go back to our 3-3 days, and yeah, he's out there now pushing recruits as well too. So
He is doing well.
he's a
Now, how
character.
long is that tour?
What's that?
How long is the tour out at RTT?
3 years. So you got to come out here and go through RDC C school first, which is 13 weeks, and
Okay.
then once you complete that, then you immediately like I graduated August 6th, August 7th, my order started.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And
Wow.
those are the blue ropes, right?
the blue ropes are the ones that are in training. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yep. So I was a blue rope for a while, and for 13, well, it's actually 10 weeks because the first 3 weeks is all classroom. And then once you pass a certain inspection, you get your blue rope and your cookie, and then you go out in the streets and you get assigned to a red rope, and that's what you do for the next 10 weeks.
Hmm. Is it true that they treat you guys like recruits as well too? Those first 3 weeks, as much as you can say.
It is. Let's just say we have to know what to go through in order to make sure the recruits know what to go through. Let's just
Understood.
put it that way. Yeah. Most folks lose quite a bit of weight. That's.
There's a couple terms that you use that I don't know what they mean, so I imagine some people watching this
Sure.
won't in the future. So when you said red rope and blue rope and getting your cookie, what does that mean?
Okay, so a blue rope is an RDC, a recruit division commander in training, and so they wear a blue rope. It's like like the Marine Corps, a French fourragère, same
Mhm.
thing, but
Okay.
just a solid blue one. And then the cookie is what says. I don't have one right here. It's on my uniform. Sorry, but it's a metal cookie that says Recruit Division Commander, and it's the seal for the command.
Oh, okay.
And so,
You just refer to it as a cookie.
Yep. And then when you graduate, you get your red rope. And so that now you're a full blown RDC. You're independent. You don't have to have another. You can go train recruits independently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull it up real quick.
I don't have one right here. I just pulled it out.
Yeah, well, I hate the fact that for whatever reason my here we go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So yeah, so these are the red ropes that you hear us talking about,
Okay.
and is he? I think you can't even barely see it, but it looks like he has a blue rope on right there. Oh, he has one right here.
Yeah.
You see that, guy? And she does as well right
Okay.
here.
Oh, that's a recent picture. Is that no? That's not recent. Never mind.
And then this one has the red rope and a little bit of the blue rope. She has a blue rope on as well. Now, and also depending on if you're like an instructor on the other side of the base, don't they have like a red and gray rope or something like that?
It's a red rope with a white inlay.
Right, yeah.
And I forget exactly what that is. It's a special group of folks, and I want to say it's NSI, but I don't remember what NSI stands for, so I apologize. But it's they assist with some of the office, like midshipmen or like ROTC candidates that go through a little mini boot camp, and they're the ones that train them. There's a gunny that does that as well out here. Two of them actually, two gunnies out here that do that as well.
And so they.
That's right. I remember the assistant MOI when I was going through commissioning. Yeah, in the summers he'd have to go and mess with the Navy.
Yep. It's either that or OCS, because they'll have them at TBS and OCS and all that fun stuff. So, yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I'm just also thinking too. So, Joe, so you know Jeanette Rodriguez out there?
Ooh, Jeanette Rodriguez.
Little short Hispanic HMC.
I think she's. Ooh, is she leaving soon?
Yes, she just had a set of twins, I believe, as well.
Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember who that is. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
I think I know. I'd have to see a face. I'm still fairly new, and the mess out here is massive. So
okay, yeah.
It's like 360 Chiefs out here. It's massive.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
It's the biggest mess in the Navy right now. So.
Oh no way! The biggest Chiefs mess in the Navy, huh?
Yeah. Well, for one command, yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So it's because there's like I think Florida has a bigger one, but it's multiple commands, whereas this one is just one command, and it's the biggest single command mess in the Navy, which obviously at boot camp. But yeah, so I apologize. I had to see her face in order to remember who she is.
No, it's all good. You know, I tell people all the time, yes, the military is small, and the longer you stay in and the more rank you get, it gets smaller. But at the same time, it's still a big organization.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then he's talking about the corpsman community as well too. Are we still the biggest, or both mates pick it back up again?
Yeah, by far. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think the next closest to us is MAs, which they've been right behind us for second in line for years. So.
Yeah. So Joe, let me ask you this, brother. What has kept you going for 19 years through everything, good, bad, and different? Obviously, you're going to view certain aspects of the Navy from a different lens than I would, right? You're going to view certain aspects of the Navy as maybe more impactful or more meaningful, I would say, than maybe I would. So yeah, what has kept you going for 19 years, brother?
Oh man, I mean, some of it was, I just didn't have a clear plan moving forward. So I just said, I like I said, I joined this institution because I wanted to have a paycheck, and I didn't want to rely on my mother. And she already had enough other things that she did in life, so I was like, I'm going to take one burden off of her. It was really my mindset. And coming in, I had zero expectations. And so going to boot camp, all that stuff. And so I realized very early in my career that having no expectations allowed me to really take in what I was doing and where I was going. And so I never really argued about orders that I got. I never really was like super upset about whatever I was doing. I just kind of accepted that I joined this institution where the Navy tells me to go and what to do, I'll do it. The only way I have to advocate for myself in those moments is just by busting my tail and earning the right to pick and choose what I want to do next. And so that was my mentality, I guess. It was different for me in that regard. And I was full of piss and vinegar when I came in, of course. And the Marine Corps humbled me. I had a staff sergeant did as you know, hands on. You know, I learned a thing or two when I was 20. But you know, it was just a great experience moving forward of not having this like zero expectation for what I'm walking into. So I've kept that attitude. That's part of what kept me in, is just the curiosity. What can
Mm-hmm.
this turn into? What can I do with this? Obviously the people, like I would be remiss if that's not the primary thing. Being able to, especially now where I'm at now, I mean RTC, but like my last command, just being able to come alongside young people and having been through some of the things that I've been through and be able to help them not make the same mistakes or just make better decisions. Because I mean, let's be real. At the end of the day, we wear a uniform, we represent the nation, but we're still people, and we still have lives, and we still and we all hang it up one day, whether it's in 4 years or it's in 30 years. So you know, my mission was to make sure they are successful people in and out of the uniform, and so that really drove me. That's really driven me for the last, you know, close to a decade. Um, Realistically speaking, I was going to get out at 10. I did my first command, had 2 deployments. Um, was looking to extend on station at 1-6 and just get out on for my 5-year tour. And I met turned into be my wife, now ex-wife, but met my wife and was like, well, I want to start a family and I don't know what I'm going to do. So I just decided to stay in to make sure I had a paycheck and insurance. And so, because I was even then, you know, 23, 24 years old, I was like, these are things that I need to make sure I have for my family. And so I did that. And so I reenlisted. I went to Portsmouth. And then while at Portsmouth, I decided I wanted to be an officer. So I was looking into the MECEP program, which is for nurse corps in the Navy. And I applied 3 times. And on my 3rd time, I PCS'd back to Camp Lejeune to CLR 25. And I got picked up for MECEP in 2015. So I went home, went to school for a couple of years. And well, when you get selected for that, it's an automatic 6. So I had enlisted already at that point for 8 years and some change. And so when I got 6, it put me out to 14. And so even, you know, pass or fail, if I succeeded and got commissioned, or if I failed out or got released from the program, I was still in until 14. So that's just kind of what kept me. Some of that, there's a lot of feet. There we go. There was that kind of drove me to stay at least to 14, and then I had HYT on my back and just decided to stay in to finish it. I didn't want to give up. So long-winded, sorry.
No, 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 no. You don't have to apologize, man. We love the long-winded answers because it keeps us from having to keep up coming up with the questions.
Yeah.
No, no. You know, one thing that you said, Joe, that I love that I found more prevalent towards the end of my career. Vice when I first came in was, you know, leadership finally started to tell junior personnel, like, look, I'm not here to convince you to stay in the Navy or get out. I'm here to support you and help build you a successful roadmap to whatever it is you want to do, whether that's in uniform or outside of uniform. Because I saw a lot of leaders, right, discourage a lot of great young men and women that just, like all of us, really didn't know, right? We're coming up on reenlistment. We're like, do I want to reenlist? Do I not? What's next for me in life? And because they interject their personal opinion, right? Hardcore. And it's like, no, you know, it's kind of like, and I'm not bashing on the Chiefs, right? But I know you probably heard it. Like when you have that first class that's like, well, I want to get commission. And so the chiefs are like, well, then fuck it, then don't do chief shit. You know what I'm saying? You discourage so many people with that attitude. So it's great to hear someone that's still active duty say, hey, my job isn't to force you to stay in this uniform and put on anchors like me. My job is to help you. So that's really great. I love that, Joe.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, I learned again. You'll hear me say this probably frequently tonight. Is I learned early some really good life lessons early in my career. One going greenside, I had a crusty old chief that was like, if you can go to the Marines and embody the idea that you're a Marine until somebody gets hurt, then you're Doc. He's like, you'll be just fine. And I really took that to heart. And so I really embodied that. I tried to embody that, doing the weapon systems faster than they could. All that different kind of stuff. So blindfolded too, fuckers. But,
Yeah.
Just getting in there and getting the hang of it and just a lot of life lessons. But I learned a couple of valuable lessons early on. One being that the Navy is a business. It is a family, but it's a business. And you have to make sure you understand that in the back of your mind in all that you do. Because if you think that the Navy needs you, you're wrong. You need the military. Absolutely. And so, and all of us can feel replaceable or can feel irreplaceable. We definitely are, especially in this institution. And so what you won't do, someone else will. And so there's just a lot of life lessons in that regard. But I've always just thought about two things. If it was me and I was that young sailor, who did I want telling me what to do? Mm-hmm. Right? Because let's be honest, all of us that join the service are looking for some type of direction. Mm-hmm. We need that discipline. We need some rigidity to help us. We may not know at the time, but it helps us stay guided, right? It puts us in a box that we get comfortable in and are able to succeed in. And so I knew that. And so I just kept that mentality for young people. And the other is just take care of people. Yeah. Like just don't be an asshole, just I'm very firm and like, I'm not a yeller, never have been, but like, I give people the dad talk all the time. Like, why do you think you're here talking to me? And they tell on themselves all the time, so it's just, people are human and people get so outside of that. And as you said, with the chief mess and I can, even being a part of the mess now, you still see some of the old folks that are like, chief is the, chief. And I get it 100%. There's the culture. It's a heritage. It's such a deep rooted thing as far as the Navy is concerned. I fully accept that. I love that about what we do.
Yeah.
But it is, as they say, the world's largest fraternity. Like I can make a phone call and somebody's going to pick up anywhere in the world. And just because I'm a chief, they're going to help me out, which doesn't seem always too fair, but it is what it is.
Right.
But at the same time, it's firm. And it's to make sure that we take care of people. And some of these
old thoughts, let's put it that way.
Yeah, some of these older folks that have these different thoughts, I'm ready for the door to hit them just as much as anybody else is. And that's just being honest.
Yeah. Because it is true, right? That one rotten apple will spoil the whole bunch. And you can have 99 great chiefs at one command, but it's always going to be that one chief that all the junior sailors like, fuck that chief. Yep. And it makes it to, it's like not just fuck that chief, but now it's fuck the chief's mess, right?
Yep.
And it just spreads, unfortunately. But yeah. Real quick, hey Nate, we were getting a lot of feedback from your end, so I had to mute you.
Okay. Yeah.
So just be mindful of that, brother. Cool. So yeah, awesome. I had a CSC when I was at HM2, so an E5, that told me basically what you told me as well too. I had done basically nothing but greenside commands. And then I was on the USS Baton when I got stationed here at the Naval Hospital at not Camp Pendleton, at Balboa in San Diego. And I was Command Master Chief Du Barracks Executive Assistant, so it's EA, his secretary, right? Just a fancy word for secretary. And the CSC, so the chief, he was in charge of the admin space, but he wasn't my chief because my chief was really the Command Master Chief. But, you still needed, like, God forbid an HM2 doesn't have an E6 or an E7 to go to, right? Anywho,
God forbid. Yeah.
But one day we were in the office and everyone was in the office and blatantly said, "Hey, Luis, come on over here." And I was like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "Why is the chief calling me Luis?" And I walk over there, and I guess he saw like this confusion on my face. I mean, yes, I was already in at that time. I want to say 12 years. This confusion on my face, and he was like, "You something along the lines like you're wondering why I called you Luis, right?" I was like, "Yeah, chief." He goes, "Brother," he goes, "remember this. One day you're gonna take off that uniform for good. And underneath that uniform is Luis Fonseca. It's always been Luis Fonseca. It's never been any like added titles, right? Because it's always been Luis Fonseca that is part of this. And man, I kept that ingrained in me. He's still a lifelong till this day. Carlos Wilkerson, he's a retired senior chief. Till this day, we're still great friends, man. And I think because of that, at right around that moment is where I don't ever think I was very egotistical as far as like, well, I'm Luis Fonseca with the Navy Cross, but I think I was like egotistical as far as like, dude, I'm in the fucking Navy. I'm a Navy corpsman. Like, we're like that way, right? Um, but I think him instilling that in me that early on and just showing me the human side of the military allowed me to when not only did I have hiccups in the road where it put me in a negative spotlight to kind of recover gracefully, but also at the end of the day, after 22 years, and people are like, "Oh, you retired just as an HM1." I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. Let's not. You know, if you knew what I had to do to get here at 22 years, I am very fucking proud. Now, don't get me wrong. I tell people all the time too. Like, I don't bash the Chiefs mess. Do I expect a lot out of Chiefs? Absolutely, a
As you
hundred
should.
percent. And that's why
Yeah.
I'm very hard on Chiefs, just like I am. And not to get political, but that's same with our president, right?
Mm.
I don't bash our president because I hate him as a person, but because I expect a lot more out of a person that is in that position. Same with my Chiefs. I expect a lot, right? And yeah, there, like we said, I have regrets, and one of them is I wish I would have seen Anchors. I do, right? Because there's still the what ifs. Like, man, how much more of an impact could I have made? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I had plans on being, forced Master Chief at one time, right? But just the alcoholism um put those plans to the side. So yeah, but
Yeah.
anyways, I'm just rambling on, man. I just feel
No.
like I'm just talking to a old chief buddy, just rambling on it. You know what I'm saying?
No, I get it. I get it. I get it. There's so much about what we do that creates this. Oh, like I mean, I love what you said about when you take the uniform off, you're you. And it's people. I've pride myself on that. I never allowed the uniform to be my identity.
Hmm.
And there's so many people that do that,
Yeah.
and it really starts to show the more they put on their collar. And it's unfortunate because it's how can I have a young sailor come to someone and seeking guidance and seeking mentorship, or just simply tell me what to do, chief, HM1, gunny, whoever it is, tell me what to do. And this person is so ingrained in the identity of the uniform instead of just being a human that it
Yeah.
just comes out ill received. And I'm sure all of us have been on the end of that. And it's just it's unfortunate to me, and I have always been pretty decent with discernment, and so I usually see right through it. And I'm like,
Hmm.
don't give me that fucking
Yeah.
book answer. Like, I'm trying to talk to you. Like, what is going on with you? How can I help you? Or I'm asking you to help me. Like, let's get to that, and
Yeah.
it's tough for people sometimes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
For what it's worth, speaking of the uniform and how it eventually comes off, we were fortunate enough to have as our guest one night a retired flag officer, 2-star general,
Hmm.
Very nice.
who was, it's a good thing you're sitting down for this one. He was on the pile. He was on the pile commanding troops.
Oh gosh.
Uh-huh. And he said to us, he didn't know it at the time, but the thing that would stick with him was the sight of destroyed fire trucks.
Mm.
So years later, after he retired out, he was walking with his grandkids um, someplace, and they stumbled across somewhere an old auto junkyard, and he said there were like two or three fire trucks that were either retired or somehow he said all of a sudden, and when I saw those trucks in that auto graveyard, it was 9/11 all over again, and I had to step away from my grandkids to compose
Oh
myself.
gosh.
At which, it gets better. At which point, the stars, and I'm speaking metaphorically, the stars that he has fell off his shoulders, and he began choking up with us
Mm.
in the podcast. He
Mhm.
became just as human as the rest of us. It was, to me, I still get goosebumps when I think about it. So I always follow up with my people, and I'm going to follow up with you
Mm.
just to make sure everything's okay and so on and so forth. And I said to him the next day in text, I said, listen, are you okay? Because that was a lot. And he said, Doc, it was great. I was so happy to meet you guys. And then he gave us the benediction we've received many times over. He says, it's like I've known you guys for years.
Oh yeah.
And that when you hear stuff like that uh, from anybody, especially a retired flag officer who has seen it,
Hmm.
it makes you want to try all the harder because getting back to what you were saying, he allowed himself to be human. He wasn't General so and so. He was just a guy who saw something god awful and paid a heavy price for it. God bless
Yeah.
him. So let us continue to humanize ourselves because if we don't, we're not doing our cause, which this this webcast is all about is mental health. We're not doing the cause any good if we don't humanize ourselves.
I, absolutely. I could not agree anymore. That's yes. That's amazing.
And so talk about mental health, Joe. So real quick backstory. I'm in college right now for a psychology degree. I'm trying to be another Doc Berry, right? Um, so one thing that I'm focused on is obviously, well, I won't say obviously, I could, you could, but it's PTSD and
Hmm.
military mental health. That's what I want to really get involved in. That's what once I get the privilege of getting into higher education and having to work on a dissertation, that's probably somehow I'm going to focus on. So let me pick your brain a little bit. What do you see at the RDC level, right? At Recruit Training Command, where we can implement whether it's classes or some training to give these young men and women the tools starting now, right? In order to for them to have the resilience to face the what is required of them in the military. And then unfortunately if the day ever comes where they get forward deployed, doesn't matter on a ship, on the ground anywhere, right? Under the sea, in the air, doesn't matter. And they face those adversities, they face those traumas. What do you think that we could do as an organization to try to to help our young men and women gain those skill sets before the damage is already done per se?
Yeah. Yeah. Man. Wow. Great question. So I know currently we have implemented a program called Warrior Toughness that's now in boot camp. It's very, in my opinion, very surface level, but it kind of helps build some of these young people some tools. It's about mindfulness. It's about relaxation, breathing techniques. A mental reset, if you will, in stressful moments. And we read through it with the recruits, and it's a whole process, and it's very scripted. Um, and it really helps these recruits just kind of when they get stressed out, to have some tools to recalibrate is what they call it, to recalibrate themselves and get back to what their normal is, understanding that that normal is always fluctuating. Excuse me. Man, it's first I have to say that preparing us for the type of stuff that we've seen or that we encountered, I don't know there's ever going to be a way to effectively prepare for that, right? That's just, there is nothing I think that can prepare anybody for any kind of trauma of any sort until it happens, right? That's just the reality of life. That's the reality of the human condition. But at the same time, communicating and communication and education are always going to be paramount when it comes to, in my opinion, when it comes to the discussion of mental health, right? For many years, as we know, it's been stigmatized in our institution. I just don't do it. It's going to cost you things in your career. People are going to look down on you. All this slew of garbage that I'm sure all of us know, and even encountered, myself included, in our own careers and life. Because even it's not just the military that had that stigma, although it was heightened in the military, but in general, if you were telling someone that you were looking into mental health or seeking mental health, it was like, oh, like it was like people don't want to touch you, like you're dirty, and it's such an interesting thing. And I say interesting, and I vehemently disagree with that mentality, especially now, having had to use those tools myself. But at the same time, like, it's back to that same thing. It's we're human, man. Like, people go through things, and everybody deals with things differently. And we have to be honest with ourselves about that. There's no one size fits all, and the expectation that there is a one size fits all, we're already a step behind. Um, but as far as what we can do, I think specifically at boot camp, I don't know that we have the ability or the time to really, because what I would ask is to really implement some real mental health tools, right? Like learning how to do some basic CBT, right? And these different things like that, cognitive brain therapy, right? So talk yourself through things, write it down, relive it, or not relive it, but go through it again, right? To reprocess it. That's the word. And things like that. And we just don't have the time or the ability or the education, right? Because that would take some people with some psychology and psychiatry education to really implement and drive these programs. And we have many of those assets here, but we're pushing 40 to 50,000 recruits a year. There's just not, and I don't think there's a bandwidth to be able to really implement something that I think all of us would love and hope for our institutions, and all of them, not just the Navy. I don't know how we would be able to do. I don't know how that looks, if that makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense, especially someone that went through boot camp as well, right? And just like Doc Barry, Nate can remember from their times going through the boot camp. It is already so jam packed with everything from learning how to take a shit again, right?
Curtain or no curtain? I mean, curtain or
Right?
no curtain?
to learning how to drill, learning how to be not proficient, but have the basic skill sets of your weapon, whether it's a rifle or an M9. When I came in, it was the M9s in boot camp, and only M4 or M16 was a laser one. But anywho, um, so you're right. I think we can all look back at those times and be like, yeah, man, it's just to implement something that would make a long lasting impact for recruits, right? Because I think all of us can remember too, like 99% of the shit we learned at boot camp was in and out of the ear. The only things we remembered how to do from boot camp were the things that we did repetitiously every day, which was folding your skivvies, making your rack, and marching, right? That's about it. Um, so let me ask you this. And once again, Joe, you're still active duty, and I would never ask you to violate any trust amongst your chief's mess. But as much as you can say, during the 6 week phase of when HM1, not HM1, and E6 in the Navy, a first class, gets selected to become a chief, and they go through the 6 week phase of initiation, whatever you want to call it. I still call it initiation. Within those 6 weeks, is there any training for the new chiefs on how to, I'll say it this way, better handle sailors with mental health issues instead of just shut the fuck up, suck it up, or go to mental health?
Whoa. Well, I'd say honestly, I would say both. There's still going to be those folks that are very firm-handed when it comes to topics like this. Primarily, I've seen, now being an HM, I have a one-up, right? We have a one-up because we get exposed to these types of therapies and this type of mental health and healthcare in general a lot more than our other NECs and jobs in the Navy. So you're going to have those folks that in ignorance are just going to be like, fuck you, go to mental health. I don't want to deal with you. And it's unfortunate, right? Because I firmly believe that a large majority of the issues that may arise in the workplace can be simply handled with just a conversation.
Hundred
But
percent.
but a lot of folks get cast aside because these leaders don't know how to handle that. What you got, Doc?
You know how I might initially describe somebody who says either shut the fuck up, go to mental health? I would describe that person as possibly symptomatic themselves.
Mm,
I would agree, Doc.
yeah, no, absolutely, and it's a fair thing to say. A lot of folks that push away trauma is because it gets too real, right? And I that's something I've seen as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, unfortunately, ignorance, although not bliss in this instance, the ignorance of being able to know the right resources and to know what to do in the moments and how to see the signs of mental health, and not just for SI, suicidal ideation, or homicidal ideation, but like just somebody is struggling. Um, you know, just the ignorance and people not knowing what that is creates its own obstacle for young sailors and even our peers, right? Because we're not exempt from mental health concerns just because we get rank on our collar. I mean, we have just as many issues as the next person, right? In fact, sometimes more because we exasperate it by trying to help others and to make our own issues worse, right? So because we don't process and deal with our own issues, right? And it's something that is tough. So yes, do we have people in the mess that still have that very crude mentality of shut up or get out, or mental health isn't unfortunately mental health isn't real, just shit or get off the pot, figure it out. And that's just I just really disagree with stuff like that as well. But we also do have people that are very passionate and charismatic and compassionate and will sit down and be one-on-one and just tell me, how are you? No, 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 how are you really? And you see just as much as that as you do the other. Now, as far as actually implementing like some form of training into season, I don't know there's anything specifically. We do discuss it, and uh, not theorize, but like we talk about what we would do in certain situations. We walk through how that would look and what we do. Situational based training, where you talk about a circumstance and then what would you do and what are you thinking about we could do and all this kind of stuff. And so we do talk about that, and we constantly revisit resources, like Military One Source and all these different things that Navy Marine Corps Relief Society, all those different avenues that we as leaders need to have in our hip and in our back pocket to make sure we can pull these things out on a dime. There's so many resources and things out there that are available for folks that people just don't know.
Yeah.
And they push that really in the mess as well. Like, if you don't know the answer, know where to find it, right? And so that's really what I feel like I got more from the season aspect at our level, is like, we don't always have all the answers, but we know exactly where to find it. And
Hmm.
that is the whole point behind what we're asked to do as leaders and things like that.
Yeah. Something you said about, I think a lot of our issues can be mitigated or lessened with just a simple conversation. It's such a powerful statement to me because it reminded me. So I don't know if uh, if you know, Joe, but I actually had a suicide attempt. Give us- we don't stop for around here. What's up, buddy?
I gotcha.
Mhm. Sorry, guys.
You're okay. I
What
miss
was I
those
saying?
days.
Yeah, yeah. He's
You
our
were.
retirement baby, man. Christina and I were not
Oh.
planning on any more kids, and the year we retire, like the year before we retire, it's like, hey, babe, guess what? I'm like, what? We're 39 at the time. She's like, I'm pregnant. I'm like, the fuck you are, dude. We're too old for this. And like,
Oh man,
it's been a blessing.
I got a 13 and 11-year-old, and my current girlfriend, the current sounds weird. My girlfriend of over 2 years now is she's like, so any time, and I'm like, oh man. So, I'm 38
But
2 days ago, so I'm
they,
with you.
hey, yeah, yeah. The patience is a lot better, so
Hey,
I fully enjoy. But anywho,
Oh,
so
hey,
sorry to
Luis,
the
Luis.
interrupt. Sorry to interrupt. We're getting a warning. Nate's phone recording has stopped.
Oh no.
oh yeah, Nate.
So I just thought I should let somebody know.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, I just saw it up there. Okay, we'll just keep going because what it'll do is it'll bring up his recording on the back end. But like I was saying, so one thing that struck with me was having that conversation, right? Just that human conversation can I think prevent. I don't want to say deter or mitigate, but can prevent um, a lot of things from escalating, right? A lot of these mental health issues, a lot of these personal issues from escalating to the point where now, unfortunately, the sailor tied our hands and now they have to go explain themselves to like the seal, right? And and I say that because when I had my suicide attempt, so I had my suicide attempt in 2018, July of 2018, and I was, at that time I was already HM1, 19 years in, holding a lot of secrets from everyone, even though a lot of my secrets were already out because of my drinking and my NJPs. Um, but after that, Chief Palacios, Rick Palacios, did tell me, he's like, Luis, he goes, you just did a really great job of hiding how much you were really hurting. He
Mm-hmm.
goes, do we know that you were suffering from some stuff for sure? Because it's not impossible to know that of you from your history. He goes, but you were hiding this really well. And it was he in that conversation somewhere along the way, it was something like, why didn't you just talk to me? Have I not? And he didn't say it in a way like, how you can tell someone, do you not have trust in me to come tell me this? And it kind of can deter you, like, oh, now you think you're hot shit. Like, no, he said it in a very and I wish I knew exactly how he said it to me, but it was in such a way that I knew it was coming out of compassion, out of genuineness of kindness, of caring. And man, I tell a lot of people, if it wasn't for him and his approach to me afterwards, and just checking up on, like I've always said, Luis Fonseca, not HM1 Fonseca, right? But Luis Fonseca, and having those heart to hearts and just pulling me in on days where work is going great, everything's going great. And he's like, hey, Fonseca, let's go get some lunch together. I'm like, all right, Chief, let's go get some lunch. And lunch turns into an hour-long session of him kind of being my therapist. You know what I mean? A friend, another buddy. Um, and I praise Rick Palacios a lot because I owe my life to a lot of people still being here, but he was the forefront of me still being here and me being able to recover and me being able to speak openly about my mental health and my issues. You said earlier as well too. A lot of us, we don't say things because we're afraid of losing a lot of things that we've gained in the Navy, our respect, our reputation, our leadership, our clearances, right? Um, and what Rick Palacios helped me realize, it wasn't my therapist. My therapist, Kristen, was amazing, amazing. And she is the reason that once I become a psychologist, I want to go back and work for Fleet and Family Services, is because of her. But Rick Palacios, um, like I was saying, just talking to him as a person, was the one that made me realize, he was like, Luis, you're so afraid of losing all of this. He goes, did you ever stop to think that if you would have successfully killed yourself, you would have permanently have lost all of this? And to me, that was like, wow, you're absolutely right. I'm so afraid of losing this prestigious career or LPO position. And and I never stopped to think that, taking my life would permanently end it all. I would permanently lose all of that stuff. And for anyone that's watching, and Joe, I don't know if you've ever had an experience like this as well too, but after I had my suicide attempt, um, Rick Palacios also, when I came back from treatment, um, I had gone back to the I was at a dental clinic here at Miramar. I was an LPO for the dental clinic, and all the junior sailors were set up for formation. And I asked Chief, I was like, "Hey, Chief, what do you want me?" He goes, "Well, your sailors are out there ready for muster formation. Get out with your sailors." And I instinctively thought he meant get in formation with them. So I get out there and I get into formation, and he walks out there with the commander. And yeah, I noticed that there's no first class in front of formation. I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? So I get out there, and Rick, Chief Palacios, calls me over and he's like, hey, Fonseca, what are you doing? I'm like, Chief, I'm in formation with the sailors that you told me to do. He's like, "You're my LPO. Who's going to lead formation?" And I teared up. I'm not gonna lie, I teared up. I still, for many years after telling that story, sometimes I still tear up. I was like, "Well, what do you mean, Chief? Like, don't you have another LPO now? Like, I would assume I'm not needed in that position anymore." And he was like, "Luis, man," he's like, "You're our LPO, dude." He goes, "You're just struggling." He goes, "And if we need to take some time off from some of the responsibilities, well, we will. But you're still our leader." He goes, "Your sailors know nothing about what's been going on." I think I was gone 2 weeks. He goes, They know nothing about what's been going on the last 2 weeks. All they know is that you're dealing with the family emergency." And he goes, "So it's up to you what you want to tell your sailors." And to
Mm,
me, that was like, you're challenging me, right? Like, you're challenging me. Do you want to keep lying to your sailors, or do you want to man the fuck up and finally tell them, everything that, and you don't, right? You don't challenge an
mm.
alpha. I mean, whatever you want to say, alpha males or whatever, right? You don't challenge an alpha. So I was like, all right, fuck it. So I stood out there in formation that day, and I told, I think we had 60 sailors at that Dillon company, and I told them, "Hey, this is exactly what happened. This is what's going on." And everything I was afraid, well, not everything, but mainly the trust and the respect for my sailors that I thought I was gonna lose, was all taken away when after I told them that I was just standing up there crying. They all just came up to me and started hugging me and said, "H1, we're here for you, man. We're here to support you." And after that, my Navy career was 180 degrees different. And that's another reason why I tell people, like, yes, do I wish I would have maybe put on some anchors and some stars over those anchors? For sure. But my last 6 years of my Navy career, because I was so open about my suicide attempt, my recovery from alcoholism, I had so many knocks on my door, Joe, that you could probably attest that I held secrets that I should have probably told on certain sailors, right? Because we're
Oh
not
yeah.
supposed to hold secrets, right? We're supposed to
Mm-hmm.
mandatorily report, right? But I knew that a weekend of that sailor that went and smoked weed because they just couldn't handle life, and like, I knew that didn't mean that they were a shitty sailor and there was someone that we needed to get rid of. That just meant that there was a sailor that was hurting, and for whatever reason, they trusted me, and I had one of two ways of handling it. That, and I'm not saying my way was the right way. It was just the way that I decided to handle that situation. And some of those sailors are still in the Navy right now, first classes, second classes, doing great, amazing things, that call me up every now and then. And it's like, hey, and still call me HM1. "Hey, HM1, I having a little issue with this. How would you think, maybe we should handle this or that?" And so, yeah, that's why I said, man, when you said, just having a conversation with somebody that's in a moment of desperation, in a moment of hurt, of pain, man, can really resolve and mitigate a lot of issues that would escalate, to the point of now we're like, "Sir, ma'am, I gave them the safety brief. I don't know why they killed themselves this weekend." Dude,
Yeah.
all you did was cover your ass. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell you, I thank you for that. Man, it's been a journey, myself as well. And, that turning point you had there and going through something, I had somebody that said something to me one time. I can't take credit for it, but he said, "You're so worried about losing everything around you. You should be worried about losing yourself."
Oh,
And man, that really, golly, that just right here. You know what I mean? Just
yeah.
damn. I remember and it was somebody that was younger than me, and I was just like, man, who? I was like, come on, dog. Like, I'm not trying to cry right now, man. Like, what we doing?
Right.
Yeah, right? And I was like, damn. And so, because I was struggling and had some things going on in my life at the time, and we are always our own worst critic, and I was making things a
100%.
lot more than they probably needed to be, and but still processing, and he hit me with that, and I was just like, damn, dude. I was like, that's real shit. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's exactly what I think about when you were saying what you were saying. Is we get so consumed with letting something down, dropping the ball, with thinking that we're letting ourselves down, letting people around us down, that we're going to lose something we've worked for. We get so consumed with the intangibles, the things we don't really control, that we lose all sense of self. And man, it's insane. Go ahead, Doc.
Yeah.
Um, to that end, and I don't know if you guys started in on this when I had to step out. Um, when I saw your profile, um, in addition to Combat Action Ribbon ×2, I saw Purple Heart, and thanks to what you guys have been able to tell me about what decorations mean, different decorations mean different things to different people.
Right.
I just remember reading that the Purple Heart is the one ribbon nobody wants to get. And because you told me you're pretty open about
Yeah. Yeah.
what happened to you, so regarding Purple Heart, if and only if you're up to it, my question to you is, my God, man, what happened to you?
Okay. Yeah. So, it's actually a funny story. So, I got my Purple Heart 11 years after the fact.
Wow.
So yeah. So my injury was February 21st, 2010. While I did the initial push for Marja I was senior line company corpsman for Bravo Company, 1st Battalion, 6th Marines. We were pushing east. I was point man that day, and I shouldn't have been. Because as senior line corpsman, I was with my CO all the time. And he was a prior recon Marine that liked to take charge of the battle space. And by that, I mean he liked to wander. And so I constantly had to stay on his ass and make sure that he was okay. And that I saved his life probably multiple times and he mine. Just from sheer firepower and just like, nope, don't step there, and grab we call it the bitch strap, but grab the strap on the back of his flak and no, sir, come back here. And vice versa. So anyway, we were in a position headed east. We were about a click away from our main position, a click, 1,000 meters. We were going to go another click that day. And we were across from about 100 meters in front of us was a compound that we had a platoon in. And then 300 meters ahead of us off to my 2 o'clock was another compound with a section of platoon in. So section, full platoon. And in between those two was like the perfect fan fire and over an open field. And about 700 meters away was a half wall. And it had about 7 to 8 guys that were walking around, and then they would all disappear and we'd catch a wall of firepower. And then it would stop and you'd see them walking around and so we know it's them, but we just can't see weapons. And back then, PID, positive identification. So we were just doing our best to maneuver and try to make our way towards them. In the moment, I had my CO, my company commander, my company first sergeant were in a ditch, a wadi in front of me near the road. I was next to a compound wall, like on the corner, and I was posted up, and I kept using my RCO, my ACOG, to look through and relay what I was seeing to my company commander so he could think about what he wanted to do and move. But I happened to have the high ground, and so I was silhouetted against that wall. And so about the 6th or 7th time I brought my weapon down and took a knee is what I was doing. I would bring my weapon down, take a knee, then I would stand back up a few minutes later. I'd look through and I'd relay what I was seeing. About the 6th or 7th time, as I went to lower my weapon, a round came right by my face and slammed the wall and hit the wall next to me. It got so close that it burnt my cheek and it blew my eardrum out. And I had blood coming from my ear. And so at the time, I just kind of did one of these, pushed away from it. And I remember telling my CO, I was like, hey, I think they're shooting at me. And he was like, get the fuck down, that kind of thing. And, and so I was like, all right, yeah, I guess. And I didn't, I was like, ow, that hurts. But and then literally within seconds, the battalion commander had ran by with battalion sergeant major, and we crossed the street. And I have a really funny story about the sergeant major that tripped and fell and slid down the ditch. It was hilarious. So I remember he telling, don't tell anybody. I told every Marine I could possibly find. Because we were under fire crossing this road, and he was very top heavy, very burly man. And as most sergeant majors were back in the day. And he got top heavy as we were coming up the road, and he fell, and he just combat rolled. And as he came back on his ass, he crested the top of the hill. It was 2 roads separated by a 20-foot wadi in between. And so he crested it right at the top of the hill and just slid all the way down on his butt. And I'm behind him giggling while getting shot at. And as he got to the bottom of the hill, his momentum carried him right back up the other side. And it looked like an Olympic sport. And I got up behind him. And again, I'm giggling because it was funny. Nice. And We get to the other side of the road, and he looks back. He's like, "Don't you fucking tell anybody that happened, Doc." It's like, "Yes, Sergeant Major, you got it." I told everybody. Anyway, so I get across the street, and then I saw our RP at the time, RP2, and he was mentioning to me, "Hey, you got blood on your face." And as we started to communicate about that, I realized I couldn't hear nothing out of my ear. I didn't even notice yet. And right as we went to discuss that, I remember touching my cheek and like, "Ow, that stings," and I got grabbed. It was my company commander, because in that compound 300 meters away, we had a Marine that was turkey peek and got hit in the Kevlar. And so he was like, "We got to go." And so that same fanfare I just ran through, I ran through it again. And we literally did the old school, "I'm up, they see me, I'm down."
Yeah.
We were screaming it. It was one of the funnier moments I had. It's like, no shit, straight out of the history books. Like, "I'm up, they see me, I'm down. Go, go, go. I'm up, they see me, I'm down." And like straight into a ditch and just gassed, obviously completely out of breath. But, and so, back in 2021, so I never got the Purple Heart for that. I went back to my compound that night, talked to my doc, and there was so much blood and crap in my ears. He's like, "I can't see what's going on." But at the time, I just never really said anything. And so, because I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave the boys. I was like, this, fuck that. And so, because out there at the time, and I'm sure any of us that have been there can speak to it, like, I got people losing their arms. I got people losing their lives. And the
100%.
fact that I had a something on my cheek and maybe my ears fucked up, like, I was like, "Nah, I'm good. I don't need none of that." And so I didn't. And there were some other incidents that happened, but nothing that warranted the Purple Heart at the time. And so I, years later, I go home, everything's fine, I leave. Years later, whatever, 2017 comes around, and a good Marine buddy of mine had been out of the Marine Corps, got some bad drugs, and had passed away. And so the guy that actually that sold him the drugs actually went to jail for capital murder, so that's good. But as we do after the service, a bunch of us got together and we sit around a little bonfire out behind there was a VA, not a VA, like a vet. What do they call them? Oh my gosh, like a VFW.
Okay.
And they cooked a bunch of food, and we sat out back around a bonfire. It was cold as shit. I remember that. Just telling stories. And I was the only one that was still active duty. And they were like, we were telling stories, and obviously this comes up, and they said, "Hey, you need to apply for the Purple Heart. You can do it after the fact." And I didn't even know. And I was like, I'm not, it's fine. Like, I'm not tripping over it. I don't want it. And they were like, no, you will go get it. Because when you do, we're going to go get ours. And I was like, "Oh, all right." So I went back and I started doing this research, and I got a hold of my old doc that I had, and he wrote me some letters. I got a hold of my old company commander. I got some personal statements. I got some med records, submitted everything, and it wasn't enough. And so they first denied it. And so by this time, I gave up for about a year and a half. And well, I mean, I was transitioning. I had gotten deployed, some other things. That's when I went to Cuba, 2019. And then I came back, and while I was deployed, a couple of my buddies would call me. We have a group chat, and they're like, "Hey, did you get your shit yet?" No, I'm not going to get it. They denied it. Fuck that. Get more paperwork. Go do it again, because we know you rate it. Okay, fine. So I go back again, and I actually at that point had got a hold of my battalion commander, who at the time at the incident was a lieutenant colonel, now was a brigadier general. And so he wrote a letter of endorsement for my package, and that bitch sailed right through. And so got approved at April of 21. I was actually in CAX, 29 Palms, at a field op. And then because COVID extended everything, because when I got back from deployment, I was still in New Jersey, and it went to go to a board, and just COVID it got pushed. And I PCS'd to California to 1st Marine Division with 111 artillery, and then I was out in 29 Palms for what do they call it now? MTX, I think they call it now. And
yeah, changed so many times.
Yeah, it's CAX.
CAX, Mojave Viper,
yeah,
MTX.
Yeah. But I was in the field and went to go take a piss and get signal up in the hill, because Lord knows we get no signal in 29 Palms. Right. And got the email from Jason Stone, who's the coordinator in Florida for combat action and Purple Hearts, and they had approved it. And so I had a ceremony July 1st of 2021. My daughters got to be there. My mom was there. So it's really cool. And they wrote a big old Task and Purpose, wrote an article over it. NPR wrote an article over it.
Nice.
I was kind of annoyed by that, but I understood at the time, like I was still in E5. I was in E5 for 9.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was annoyed about it, but somebody presented it me into a way of like, this is important because it's showing that people are still being recognized for our efforts,
100%.
from 01 to 0102 to current. And because shortly after that was the 2021 incident happened in August. And so, it was just the Times, and they just made a big hoopla, a big old stink over it. But anyway, yes. So I got my Purple Heart 11 years later for an injury to my ear that I still have permanent hearing loss from.
Yeah,
Well, in addition to your cheek getting burned and the hearing loss,
Yeah.
I wonder how close this injury could have come or did come to some form of a TBI. Because
But potentially, I never did a workup for that. I do know that my head being, here instead of there probably saved my life.
Wow.
Because my head was turned as I was looking through my ACOG, right? And so it's turned.
Yeah.
And so the round came like this. And so if I would have been turned right through my face.
Could have, yeah.
So it could have been a very, very different scenario. So yeah, it's, I believe in God.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, and I think whoever told you that is absolutely right. Not only does it show that we still have men and women, um, from 15 years ago that still have not been appropriately recognized,
Mm-hmm.
but I hope it allows those people that are waiting for the recognition to be like, okay, then I can still get recognized. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Absolutely.
all hope isn't lost, right? Or give someone the strength to be like, oh wow, if Chief put his in, you know, 11 years after the fact, or 7 years after the fact, and it still took another 2 or 3 years after the fact, then yeah, this is something worth fighting for. And one thing I always tell a lot of people, especially now that I'm retired, um, because I understand that sentiment that you said. When I was out there, man, I had brothers and sisters that were coming home with less limbs than they went there with. I have brothers and sisters that the only thing, and I've said this for so many years, and I still say it till this day. Uh, but no disrespect to anyone, but I tell people a lot of times, like, I have brothers and sisters that the only thing the military gave their family for their son or daughter's service is a folded up flag and a Purple Heart. So how dare I walk around with the exact same medal that someone that lost everything gets, that's what they received, right?
Yeah.
And so there's still part of me that thinks that way, right? I think there maybe should be another distinguishing medal for those that and I understand that the Gold Star family is for that, but like to give the family an actual medal, right? To bury their loved one with an actual medal that is strictly for killed in action. I actually wrote a point paper about that, man, probably 15 years ago. When I was Command Master to Barracks EA, I wrote a point paper about that to try to get something put into place. But anywho, so I understand that sentiment, but now being retired, I also advocate so much for people putting in for their appropriate medals and or just advocating for any illness or injury that they had while they were in service, because you don't know, right? 20 years from now, if you pass away from something that is service connected, your family gets so many different benefits, right? And it's sad to maybe think that way, but at the end of the day, you said it numerous times on this podcast, Joe. A lot of your motivational factors of why you've either stayed in service, picked up rank, or moves that you made is because you've thought, how can I best take care of my family?
100%.
And one of those things we always have to always remember is one day, unfortunately, we will not be on this earth to take care of them. And so what we leave behind for them, right? To take care of them. And those are the sacrifices that we made, brother. And so I'm very glad that you rightfully so were awarded your Purple Heart that you rightfully deserve. So yeah, good on
Yeah.
you, man.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's always an interesting dynamic when it's funny now. I say funny, but sometimes I get a little chippy about it is that I'll have young sailors like, oh, what is that one? Because they don't know what it is, and it blows my mind at some aspect. I'm like, dudes, every back when we were coming up as young sailors, I mean, every other fifth Marine had a Purple Heart, so it was
Yeah.
like, it's just I was like, how do you not? And then it just really kind of opened my eyes in the last couple of years. Like, man, the culture has really changed, and people
Yeah.
just aren't seeing that as often anymore. And I don't get upset about it, but it's like, damn, man, like, it definitely makes you feel a certain way sometimes of like, where is the history? Like, why do you don't understand? Like, we went through 20 fucking years of shit.
Yeah.
Like, no, I don't care what you believe in. People died over there, man. And,
Mhm.
and all that different stuff. And, for a while I didn't even want to wear it, and I got it and I didn't. And,
Oh, wow.
I didn't wear it, and I would only put it on for like dress uniform inspections,
Gotcha.
because I had a rack already made, so I just put it on. And man, I had a good friend of mine, retired chief, and he saw me one day in uniform, and I was wearing top 3. And my
Mhm.
top 3 was a Com, a Nam, my car at the time, because I had taken my Purple Heart off. And he stopped dead in his tracks, and he saw me across the street, and he was like, and I looking around like, what, dude? He's like, come here. And he come over, and he's like, let me tell you something. And, much colorful language. And he's like, don't you ever walk around with top 3 ever again, as long as I live. He's like, you show all these motherfuckers that we've been there and we've done it. He's like, because they're going to look
Yeah.
at you. He's like, our resume is on our chest. Unfortunately, in the service, our resume
Mhm.
is on our chest. So how dare you do a disservice to yourself and to the sailors that could get something from you by only wearing your top 3. And man,
Yeah.
I was like, my bad, dude. So since then, I have always worn my full rack, period. And so, yeah, it was. Go ahead.
What's up, mate?
Let's try this. Hopefully, it's not echoing for the audience. Um, Another thing that a lot of people don't realize who rate a combat, the Purple Heart, but never apply for it, or they just don't care about it for many reasons. Some of them you've expressed. They don't realize that once you're out, whether you retire or you just get out, the VA approaches you differently with a Purple Heart. There's different benefits for people who have a Purple Heart than people at the same level without one. And then there's a whole bunch of nonprofit organizations that qualify you for them to help you, or even just to do something for you. If you don't have a Purple Heart, they don't want to talk to you. They exist specifically for people who are wounded, no matter how little that level somebody might think. If it qualifies, it qualifies. And then on top of that, if you don't get your Purple Heart, then Congress doesn't know what the actual cost of war is, because you're not in the data for how many Purple Hearts there were. And so there's a lot of reasons why people who rate a Purple Heart should and didn't get it should really apply for it. But I really like what that sailor said to you, though, about you're holding back and they don't realize they could get something from you knowledge wise, right, and experience if you're not showing it. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah. No, I
hey,
appreciate that. Go ahead.
well, when you were telling about some young buck who points to that particular decoration and has no idea what it is, you start grinding your teeth, which is understandable. And I started thinking about, and Luis, I'm going to put you on the spot, a story that Luis told about somebody who came up to him and pointed to one of his decorations. And go ahead, Luis, take it from here.
Well, it's funny that you were mentioning that, Doc Bear, because I was already thinking about that. It, so Joe, like,
I can
you're
only
right.
imagine. Yeah.
Purple Hearts. I don't want to say during our time where Daima does it, but yeah, it's like there's some awards that you just think people in service know.
Yeah.
Accommodation medal, an achievement medal, a Purple Heart. I would even say a Bronze Star. Most people know, right?
Mm.
Throughout every rank. But the amount of people when I was a young E4, HM3, had just been awarded my Navy Cross. Leadership. I'm talking about staff NCOs, chiefs. What is that on your chest? It's the Navy Cross, chief. What the fuck is that? how do you get awarded a Navy Cross? Um, you go to combat, and a lot of Marines and sailors get seriously hurt, and they think that you did some amazing shit. I don't know. Like I told one sailor, and I don't know if this is a story Doc Barry's thinking of, but I told one sailor that they were like, "What's a Navy Cross?" And they were either my peer, were the same rank, or maybe one up or one down. And I know I was an HM2 because I was stationed on the ship. So I think I was probably giving the sailor a hard time because they were blue side sailor. They were probably like an engineer or something like that, right? And so I know, right? And so like and by that time I think I was just fed up with how many people, like you said, it's just like, how do you not know your award system? How do you not know our history? Like, I don't care that you don't know about me, but like this, like even till this day, Joe, it is what it is. Like, I'm the only Navy sailor from the Iraq War that is a living recipient of the Navy Cross. There was only two of us, myself and SO1, well, Chief. They posthumously promoted him, Chief Keaton, SEAL, Navy SEAL guy, right? He was awarded his Navy Cross. So it's only two of us. So like I would get frustrated, like, man, you guys really don't know what the rest of the Navy does and all of its awards and stuff, right? But yeah, so I told that sailor, I was like, oh, it's a Navy Cross. They're like, oh, how do you get awarded the Navy Cross? And I was like, oh, you go work in the chaplain's office and you just do a good job.
That's the one. That's the one.
Oh my gosh. I tell you, that's so funny.
But
We always fuck with each other always, but man, that's so. I tell people it's my enemy marksman badge, my Purple Heart, and I tell them that, and then it's funny you say that because like in the same time that a lot of sailors don't always know what that is, and they should, and that's one of those type of situations. Like me, I mean now, but even as a young sailor, if I saw somebody that had an award that was higher than a NAM, I was like, they're not just going to make that up, right? So it's like, and because that's a lot of what a lot of folks would first go to is the whole Stolen Valor conversation, right? And it's like, first of all, if you're in uniform running around with other people in a unit and nobody's stopping you, it's probably legit. So that was one. Two, there were a few of them that we all just kind of knew. Now, Navy Cross you don't see often, obviously, but it would strike that looks important. And it's always the awkward situation of like, do I ask or do I just pay respect and move on? But for my Purple Heart, I've had both ends of that where sailors have no clue, and I'm just like, come on, man, and I've gotten softer about it over the years because I understand, and I have to act a little different. But if it's somebody I know has been there, done that, like if a combat guy walks up and they're like, oh, what's that? I'm going in.
Yeah,
but
100%.
But the other side of that too is like I'll have sailors that do know. Because I don't wear it on my sleeve like it's it's an identity, right? Like it's an award I have. I don't really talk about it. It's not that it causes me issues. I just don't. It's just not something I start a conversation with. And so I usually wait.
It's not like you introduce yourself and say, "Hey, I'm Chief Purple Heart recipient," right?
Yeah, right. And there are people that are of that mindset of like, "Oh, why are you not leading with that?" And I'm like, "What validation does that do? That I didn't move fast enough? That's all it means." And so. I'm a chunky guy. I didn't go fast enough. Sorry. But no, but at the same time, like I said, I'll have sailors that do know, and somebody will come in and they'll be like, hey, ask him what it is. And they'll try to egg him on. Or they'll be like, did you just ask what his Purple Heart is? You don't know what that is? Don't worry, HM1. Don't worry, Chief. I got it. They'll take him out of the room. And so it's a different, you got to have fun with it. And I'm sure you have in your own way as well. And some of that stuff that we go through that landed us in those positions to get these awards, we make fun of it. Because in the moment, you're not thinking that way. I think I even heard you say that. Like, in the moment of the actions that we take and the things that we do, we're not thinking about awards. We're not thinking about like what's going to happen to us. We move. You make a decision and you go. And that mentality is what, we all look back and go, oh shit, I did that. Oh, all right, cool. Well, I was just cool. I'll do my job, whatever it is. And so it really creates this interesting dynamic of like the back and forth of my brain of like, did I do enough? I was just doing my job. And then somebody thinks I did more when to me, it was just you just do this circle of thought.
Man, I'm so glad that you say that. It
Yeah,
is.
but you
It's
know what conversation I want to hear? I want to hear the first conversation that guy that Luis talked to, when he went and repeated and told somebody about this guy he met who got a Navy Cross for working for the chaplain.
Oh, I know, right?
Oh man.
Well,
Probably
here's
some
another
crusty RP.
here's another story. So, uh, I was still in Lejeune, so I think it was right before I transferred to my ship. So I was a third class. Hadn't picked up second yet, and I remember a young. This was before your time, Joe. So we used to have a thing in the Navy called not perform to
Senility.
serve. It was called something else.
ERB, Enlisted Review Board.
No. What it was they were signing up people to come in.
Oh, National Call to Service?
No. They signed in like a 1 year active duty contract, and then after that 1 year they were reservists. And
Yeah.
a lot of people.
National
A
Call
lot
to
of
Service
people.
was 2 and 2.
Is that what it was? Okay. Yeah.
It was 2 and
The
2.
national.
2 years active, 2 years reserve. Yep.
Yeah, there you go. So it was a national call to service, right? And I remember it was one of those guys,
Oh,
and yeah, I also didn't really know. I was like, man, you guys really got fucked over. They're like, yeah, they made it sound like we're gonna be active duty, and a lot of people, and you couldn't go from you couldn't like cancel your reserve orders. So anywho, I had a young sailor, young HM3, like yeah, seen an E4 with already 4 rows of ribbons, one of them being a Navy Cross, was like HM3. How did you get all of those awards? And so I already knew that he knew that I had rightfully so been awarded the Navy Cross. So I told him, I said, dude, I was like, once you get awarded one award, I was like, and I think he had a NAM. He had did something, got a NAM. I said, once you get something like that, no one's really gonna question anything below it. So just go to the exchange and buy some, dude. Monday morning, this motherfucker shows up in uniform with like
no.
3 rows of ribbons, like HM3, and I'm like, no. Yeah, Chief pulled me into the office for that one. Like,
Oh,
you got to be
no.
careful what you tell these young sailors. Like, and I think that's where I started grasping the
Yeah.
concept of like, yeah, he's right. Like, I'm only 24, 25. I want to be this young kid that jokes around, but there has to be a little bit of level of maturity when it comes to speaking about this and how these awards come about and whatnot. So, what's up, Doc Barry?
It's interesting where we find insecurity and ignorance across
Mhm.
fields. Okay, we've been talking about military decorations. I'm here to tell you guys, and Luis, as you work your way up the food chain in academia, you're going to find the same levels, unfortunately, of insecurity and ignorance. To that end, many moons ago, somebody in a very high-handed tone of voice had a question for me. Apparently, what prompted him to ask the question to begin with is, I guess it's because I'm a little different, whatever the fuck that means. So
Mhm.
he said, this guy says to me, and I know I've told you guys this story. He said, "Where did you receive your training? Where did you get your doctorate?" And I said, "Which one?"
Mhm.
He said, "You have 2 doctorates?" And I said, "Uh-huh." Shut right
Yeah.
down. I didn't start that one, but God damn it, I finished it. You know.
Yeah.
So, Luis, as you work, you're going to see the same thing. It's inescapable. The
Right.
insecurity of the human condition. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, it's funny that you
Unbelievable.
mentioned that, Doc Barry, because a friend of mine, we're actually just talking over text message, and Joe, you can relate to this too. Exactly what you just said right now, Doc Barry. Like, it's amazing how our mind is so powerful that we can make such great accomplishments, right? Do some amazing things, right? Achieve certain level of success within our career, and in our mind, we're still wondering, am I good enough? Have I done enough? Do I really deserve this? what more can I do to help support my thought process that I am worthy of this either acknowledgement, this accolade, this title, this position. And it seems like sometimes we're just chasing that, even when the rest of the world is might be looking at us like, nah, dude, that's fucking Doc Barry. He's been a psych doc for 25 years. That's Chief right there. Like he's the fucking chief. That's you know Nate, man. He's a Mustang Marine. That's Fonseca, like a Navy Cross recipient. But in our own minds, like you said, Joe, it's a loop, right? That just some
Mhm.
days we see that we're worthy enough. Other days we're like, man, but I really didn't do much, man. I I just was the guest of honor for MAG 31, Marine Aircraft Group 31's 250th birthday celebration.
Oh, bruh.
And exactly what you said is exactly what I said in my speech. I said on March 23rd of 2003, although a lot of people will say I did extra acts of valor in that situation, I said what I did that day wasn't because I thought I was extraordinary or because I thought I was special. What I did that day was because in my heart, it was my duty to be
Mm-hmm.
there for my wounded Marines, just like it was their duty to look at the enemy and suppress it and ensure that we were safe.
Absolutely.
And that perspective,
Amen.
that different perspective of what, and I think Nate and I have had this conversation. I know I've had it with other people too. When Joe, you might have heard it as well. Like when you're a young doc out there, like Doc, you're fucking crazy. I was in the times when we didn't even carry M4s, or we just had the sidearm. Like you're running around the battle space with no weapon, and I would tell people, I'd be like, see, I don't see it that way. The way I see it is I think my Marines are the fucking crazy ones. Because when there's bad men out there that are trying to take us out, my Marines are like, "Psh, lock and load. It's time to get to work. Let's get to it." And I get to be like, nope, nope, nope. Let me go take care of my casualties.
Oh man, that's so funny. It's yeah,
Right.
yeah, it's so funny. It's such an interesting thing. I'll probably say that a lot. I don't know if were you gonna say something, Nate? I'm sorry. I don't want to cut over top of you. Oh, okay. Um, yeah, no, it's funny. I always tell a funny story too. There's a culture behind being called doc, right?
Mhm.
And and we, nowadays it's kind of what's a way to PC say this? It's not like it used to be.
It's not
My
earned. It's more.
Yeah, it's just kind of if you're an HM, you're automatically doc, and man,
Yeah.
part of me dies inside when that happens.
Hmm.
But when I came up, and I'm sure for you as well, Luis, that like my staff sergeant called me Ha because I was an HA. And so, which is a hospital admin apprentice, right? And you need
Yeah.
to E2 in the Navy, right? So he called me Ha until I deployed, until I had my
Wow.
first casualty. And then my first set of casualties was an IED. It wasn't even my Marines; it was a route clearance that we had come up on, and had a guy that they hit a really big ID in a up armored Humvee, and the driver got jacked up pretty bad, and then the other four there was a concussion, a rib fracture, and then one was like a messed up knee, and one just hyperventilated, and I got him to calm down. And so, but when we got there, I'm last Vic in my stick, so I'm 800 meters away from the zone, and I
Hmm.
have to get out and run. And so, with full battle rattle, get out there, and well, I'm telling you, it was ass. And so I get up there and I'm gassed, and it's one of those things where like on the way up, my Marines in the gun are like docking your IV bag, and they're throwing me shit as I'm running down the road to go get these Marines in the hole. And I get up there and wouldn't you know it, the Marines had already jumped to action, and I literally just looked over all the treatment patterns, um, and just made sure everything was cool. I did a few things, and I was like, what do I do with my hands? Like
Right. Right.
everything's already done. Like, oh my god, what do I do? So I'm like, all right, medevac. So I'm getting that mode, and I'm getting the information to the gunny and everything else, and just I remember the moment. We had a funny story about that too. The rotor wash pushed me in the deck, but anyway, it's another story for another time. But I remember after the fact, my staff sergeant was up there, and he was one doing the 9-line and stuff. And log train is like, log train is 20 vehicles long, right? And we
Right.
were just a section of trucks, 4 trucks. And so, because we were a mortar platoon that got split up, 4 trucks went to QRF, 4 of us were just stated with the mortars, and then we stood up about after a month and became another QRF section. And so, as my first deployment, and my staff sergeant, I almost say gunny because he made gunny on that deployment, but my staff sergeant at the time run up, and I remember him saying, I'll never forget it. He's like, "Doc, what do you need?" And I remember going like, "Who's he talking to?" Because he had always called me Ha, right? I was like, and I remember thinking like, "Where's Doc?" Like I remember it was just so surreal, and I was like, you know what I mean? I was like, "What is going on?" And I was like, "Oh shit, me, okay, cool." And so I remember doing that, and I was like, "Oh shit," and then I remember, with that pumped up like that, I was like, "Oh shit, like I fucking earned it, man!" Like, it. Unfortunately, somebody was hurt, but like, fuck yeah, I did that thing, man, and a little bit of pride. And this major walks up. And it was the log train commander.
Mm-hmm.
And he walks up and he's like, "Thank God you're here." And I'm like, mind you, I'm an E2. This is a whole ass Marine Corps major. And I was like, "What do you mean? Where's your corpsman?" And he's like, "Oh, we don't have one." I said, "In 20 vehicle convoy, sir?" I said, "That's your fault."
Yeah.
And he just looked at me, and he just kind of looked at me and just kind of was taken aback. And I was like, "That's your fucking fault."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Thank God that we came through when we did, because we were supposed to go a different way that day."
Wow.
And I was like, now granted, the Marines did a great job, right? I mean, the casualty still what I think it wasn't. I mean, anything can always be life threatening out there, but given the injury pattern, he would have survived, right?
Right.
But like, I was flabbergasted. You know what I mean? I was like, because back then it's so ingrained in us. Like,
Yeah.
You go nowhere without Doc. You
That's
have
right.
to have Doc. You have to have Doc. That's one of the requirements. Like, you got weapons, food, water, and Doc. So, like,
Mhm.
and the fact that you had a 20-some vehicle convoy and there was no corpsman, my
Right.
mind was blown.
Right.
And so I just remember being like, "That's your fucking fault." And my staff sergeant was like, "Oh, okay, Doc. All right, let's go this way."
It's
And
like,
so,
who approved this op order?
yeah. And so I have found out later on what had happened is they had a seat change right before they took off. And so they had 2 corpsmen that were in the stick of like 35 vehicles, and log train went out and they split at some intersection. And there was a seat change last minute that put both corpsmen on the one stick on accident. Nobody caught it.
Mhm.
So it wasn't on purpose, which, as it happens, things like that happen all the time. Amidst all the chaos of a major movement like that, because that's a massive movement, it got overlooked. And so,
Gotcha.
it's just an unfortunate situation. But remember, I went back, and my other platoon corpsman with me, he's an HN already. He came in as an HN, and he saw me, and he comes out, and he's this big gargantuan of a man. He's the chief today, Nicholas Fancini, big gargantuan of a man. And he comes out and he gives me this great big hug, and he's like, "Got your fucking cherry pop, bro." And I was like, "What is happening?" He's like, "Fuck yeah." He's like, "We're docs, dude. We're docs. And I'm like, and it was just this big thing. And it's like, I always look back at it, I'm like, man, I meant some of the craziest shit we deal with and that we see out there. It's just like that moment of like, I fucking did it. I earned the fucking caduce. I earned, I'm now part of this. And it was just just very vivid moment for me.
No, absolutely, 100%. Because you're absolutely correct. When I came in, and was a few years before you, I came in '99, right? So yeah, like our peers, so like all of the Marines that got to the battalion rightfully around the same time I got there, privates, PFCs, were calling us Doc. But it was always the officers and staff NCOs that would either call you by your rank, or like Mike Gunny just called us corpsman. "Hey, come here, corpsman. Come here, corpsman." And Mike Gunny Sergeant David Myers, called me a Marine before he ever called me a Doc. Yeah. So in the Battle of Al Nazaria, after all that shit went down, and I had offloaded some patients and got back to the unit, when I went down south to the city and came back to the city, and the major firefighting already stopped. I get off my AV, and the first person after I get off the AV and I'm walking down the road, I come into contact with was Gunner's on Myers, and like I said, always called me Corman. He did not care for Corman because in Desert Storm as a young Lance Corporal, he was involved in the Highway of Death when the A-10 Warhogs came and lit up a whole bunch of people. He was involved with in that. On
Damn.
Nazaria, same fucking shit happens. The difference is, fortunately for him, the second go around, he had me as a corpsman and not his first corpsman, who I guess didn't perform his duties, right? So for the next I would 13 years, he like fuck corpsman, they're workless. Like I've seen him on the battlefield, So he told me that he was like, just stay the fuck out of my way, take care of my Marines, and you'll be just fine. You hear me, corpsman? Roger that, Gunny. But so I come off the track and to me it's like a fucking movie, dude. It's
Oh,
like
yeah. Yeah, it
when
is.
I close my eyes and picture it, and it probably didn't even go down this way, but this is the way it's gonna go down for the rest of my life.
Absolutely.
It was like all of this smoke, right? All of this smoke, and then you see a Gunny just walk into the smoke like this, and it's him. Like that's the way it's always gonna be in my mind. And I see him, and he just gives me a big hug, and he's like, "You did fucking great, Marine." And I was like, "Oh, thanks, Gunny." I was like, "But I'm HA. I was HA as well. I was like HA Fonseca." He goes, "No, you heard me, Marine. You did a good job. Now get out there and start calling in the 9 lines, Doc." And that's when he called me Doc. And from that moment on, it was always Doc. And you're right, dude. It was
Man.
that yes, 100%, 100%. Like, uh, if I haven't have told that story 100 times up until this point, I'd be crying right now because the
Yeah.
first few times that I would relive that part of that day when he gave me that hug and you got that title from your gunny, your staff sergeant, right? That you earned, and unfortunately we had to earn it on days where some of our brothers and sisters didn't come home or didn't come home complete, right?
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Definitely is very prideful, and so I understand when you say sometimes when you just hear the word doc get so loosely thrown around to people, you know what I'm saying? You're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's always interesting because like two things with that trigger my brain with that is so like that same staff sergeant made gunny on that deployment,
Mhm.
end up getting commissioned as a warrant officer,
Okay.
and fast forward from 2008 to 2021, he is a CW4
Wow.
and or CW3. No, he had just made CW4.
Wow.
And Marine Corps Artillery has St. Babs. And so we all go to the Staff and O Club and get drunk. Well, I was an E5 still at the time, but all the staff NCOs were like, no, Doc, you've been in, you've done more, you're in here with us. So they pulled me in, and I didn't know he was there. And so I walk in and I see him, and he sees me, and it was like the world stopped.
Yeah.
And he's drunk. and I had just started drinking. So I'm like, I'm still pretty sobered up. And I walked up and I said, holy shit, Guns. And he looked at me, he said, Guns? He said, I ain't heard that in years. And I said, that's who you'll always be to me.
Yeah.
And he fucking just grabs me up and bear hugged the shit out of me. And he starts yelling, this guy saved my life. This guy, and this because he was my vehicle commander. And so, and I was always with him. And then my driver went down my first deployment. He was pumping a well and he tweaked his nerve block in his brachial plexus. And so his arm went numb and he just couldn't use it. So I had to medevac him. So I drove the rest of the deployment. And so it was me and my gunny, and we had a gunny, my gunner who had to use the Mark 19 because his bottle cap glasses wouldn't let him use a 50 or a 240. and then me, like it was just us three. We had a comm guy, but he was about as worth as far as you could throw him because he just wasn't all there.
Yeah.
And so, but I like all came back. We just had a moment. He just screaming, "This is my dog!" I'll never forget that. I was like, "Holy shit, man! Like I'm not drunk enough for this."
Right.
But it was such a good moment, seeing him 13 years later.
Yeah.
And he just And I was like, I was a third class when he left the unit, and he was a gunny. And he was like, damn, you made one rank in 13 years, and I made 4 or 5. I was like, shut up, sir.
What I tell people all the time when they're like, "Damn, Fonseca, like you made it just up to E6 or whatever, right?" I tell them, I said, "Dude, I did every fucking rank twice. Okay, give me a break." You're like, like I made more ranks than you. I just happened to do them all twice.
You know what I'm saying? You did it right. You did it so right. You had to do it twice, right?
Right? I tell people, I was meritoriously promoted up and down the rank structure.
You were awarded, right? Awarded.
Right,
Yeah,
awarded,
that's right.
right? They're all awards.
I know that life. I unfortunately have never got awarded any of that kind of stuff. I've been
Yeah,
fortunate in that
yeah,
regard,
yeah.
but
But I know we're coming down on on our time. You know, one thing I wanted talking about just everything and mental health and you know how we get these titles and whatnot. And just thinking about over this weekend of me being the guest of honor for that unit. So the oldest Marine that we had there was a retired Chief Warrant Officer 3. He was born in 1949, enlisted in the Marine Corps, I think in like 64. I think they said something like that. Does the math sound right? Something like that. Um, and had a 31-year career. Um, we're talking about mental health and something that he told me, which I'm so glad to be able to share with everyone today, is this. He goes, you have to take away your pride in order to ask for help, in order to live a prideful life. And that to me, because I think pride kept me so many times from going to go see the wizard, right? And once I was able to remove that and go seek the treatment, now, dude, I am so proud of, and it's weird to say. I think this is the first time I'm ever going to really say it. I am really proud of where I sit today, through everything I've been through, through where I'm at in life. Could I be further in life? Absolutely. But I also know I could not even be here. And so if anyone takes anything out of our stories, there's definitely a life where you can sit down, reflect, and say, you know what, I'm very proud of who I am. So
no, that's fucking amazing, man. Good for you. That's
thank
really
you.
a great place to get to.
Yeah.
You know, I for me, because I didn't really go into a lot of what we talk about here, right? PTSD for myself as well. So, my biggest situation that got me tripped up was the man I wear on my wrist, right? Corporal Jacob Tibet. He was an engineer that was attached to our unit on my second deployment. And what fucked me up the most is I didn't know him until he was dying in my arms.
Wow.
And so he had a single shot through the horizontal, through the chest cavity. There was nothing anybody could have done in the middle of an LA trauma ER. I mean, there was nothing we could have done. We still did, and it happened 20 feet in front of me. I ran to him. I was the first one to him, and I watched the life leave this man's eyes. You know, and I wouldn't wish that on my worst fucking enemy. You know, and that it some people would think, you know, because I didn't know him, I could separate myself. But man, it made it worse for me because it was my job. I mean, you know, it's our job to know every Marine that's under our care. And man, that messed with me pretty heavily. Among all the other things that we dealt with in that deployment, and you know, I had a trauma team with me, so I had our second medical officer that was with me the whole deployment. So I got to do stuff that most corpsmen dream of doing under fire.
Right.
You know, I was doing amputations, and we were doing, just you name it, cauterizing wounds and just crazy shit on locals.
Dropping chest tubes and emergency crikes and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a Gerber I've done 2 successful ones with. But like it's just, you know, stuff that I thought would really fuck with me didn't. It was that. Wow. And so it didn't really present itself at first because as I was talking, I think either with Doc Bear earlier, I think, and here with all of us, is that you get around a bunch of folks that you've been there with and you just talk. You talk shop. And it just comes up, and that's the best therapy. I mean, this stuff 100%. Like this, right? This is the best therapy, right? For anybody. You talk with like-minded people and people that have been there, not even with you, but just have been there. And it's a relatability you can find, a common ground, and people are able to open up a lot more because they have a feeling that they can relate to you. And And that's a great piece. That's really something I try to always drive with sailors as well. Just become relatable, and you can get so much further with people. But I got back to the States and did my thing. Whenever I PCS'd, I go to the hospital. I had a lot of life happen with she was my girlfriend, fiance. We broke up, got back together, married in like less than a year. And I was at work one day and I started stuttering. And I didn't notice that I was stuttering.
Okay.
And so my good friend of mine now, he retired first class. He was second class time, dragged me to the ER because I didn't think anything was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, something's wrong. They gave me some medication, put me to sleep. I come back the next day, and as soon as I walk in the clinic, I was at Portsmouth Hospital at that point, takes me. Oh no, there's a lot of feedback going on right now. I think I don't know who it is. Is that Doc?
Yeah, I was coming from Doc Berry's.
Yeah, I think his mic is messing up on him. Nope, mic's not working for you.
I muted you for the moment, Doc.
But he walked me down to mental health and building 2 or 3. I forget which building it is. It walked me in and was like, "You are gonna make an appointment." And I was like, "Dude, I'm fine." He was like, "No." It's like He's like, I was third class at the time. He's second class, and he was like, "This is happening." He's like, I understand that I probably don't have a right to do this. He's like, "But as your friend," he's like, I'm taking you there. You're making an appointment." And made make appointment, and it was the best thing that I could have had at the time because I didn't realize how much of a problem that I had. And I spent the next year with a lieutenant who was in fellowship for psychology there, and just really broke. And she was so direct, but also very compassionate, and really broke things down for me, and just really, really took care of me, and it really got me through some bad stuff that wasn't all combat. Right, there were some other things too that had come up from my childhood that I didn't really realize that bothered me. Which is the beauty of this entire field is how so many things are connected in this web of life that we all generate for ourselves. And I've always thought of myself as being pretty mentally strong, mental fortitude, mentally strong because of the life that I've lived and things that I've been through in my life, and always having to be the adult even as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But man, if I didn't have needed a crutch at the time, and it really pulled through, and things got better for me pretty dramatically. And then I was looking at medical retirement in 2015.
Okay.
For PTSD. I had continued care. I PCS'd. I picked up care again because I had marital problems, which turned into more PTSD problems because, as we said before, all things connected, and it just made things really bad for me. Because I had really still, currently, but not near as much anymore, but really, really vivid, crazy nightmares.
Yeah.
And so that was my primary issue, sleep and nightmares. And so it was exasperated that. So I was getting ready to get processed for medical retirement in 2015, and then I got selected for that program, for officer program. So I ran back to my psychiatrist and was like, "Please clear me," because I was limited duty, right? I was not medically fit for status, and I had to be full duty in order to do this program. And I was like, "Please clear me so I can do this." And he was like, told me no. He's like, "No," and I was like, "What do I got to do? What do I got to show you that I'm ready and I can handle this?" And he was like, "Give me 3 months, and we'll put you through I got a program I want to do with you, 3 months, and then we'll go from there." And I was like, "Well, I need an answer I need an answer
like
now."
Yesterday. Yeah.
I need an answer now. The Navy's waiting for me to say yes.
Right.
So, because you get selected is one thing, but there's the other side of it where you got to make sure all your ducks in a row to stay selected. And so he was like, "Well, then give me 2 weeks to give me a warm and fuzzy to make sure as a provider that I'm confident that you're able to take care of yourself and things like that." And I was like, "All right, cool, dope, got it." So busted through those 2 weeks, and really had some great strides. Like I really just dove both feet in. Like I took time. I went on leave, and like just was like, "Hey, you got me for 3 hours. Let's dive in." He like cleared his schedule at one point so that I could come in there, and we just did like a 3-hour session. Like it was just really dove in with me, and ended up working obviously in my favor. And I turned down the potential of retirement to do this offshore program.
Right.
And I tell you, and I did that, and then I say all that to say, like, PTSD is so interesting to me because we have a situation that happens that, as you know, I don't know the good terminology for it, but like starts the landslide, that starts this travel down the path of all the doubts, of all the breakdown, of what really destroys us mentally and emotionally. When a lot of that, if we process it, will be okay. But it's not something that you just forget. Like, you have to get through that, right?
Right.
And so as I move forward in life, I start to go through a really nasty divorce. And there was a moment where I was drinking pretty heavily. And I remember I had a moment one night, and I don't have an addictive personality. I'm very, very good about with myself and just being like, I don't feel like doing it anymore. I'm good. Like nicotine, I could smoke for 6 years and then quit the next day. It just doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
And I realize I'm very fortunate in that aspect, but I've just always been able to do that. And so alcohol, I realized one night I was drinking. I was about halfway through a fifth of something. And I was like, I really enjoy this. And when I realized that I enjoyed it, I stopped.
Wow. Good for you.
And yeah, and nothing against what you've been through yourself. For me, personally, and kudos to how far you've come, Luis, and I'm proud of you for
Thank
that.
you.
But for me, it was just like I realized that I started to like it, and I was like, that's not good.
Right.
So I had stopped it. And about that same time when I stopped, because I was using it so much, it created this gap. I was like, what do I do? And so I just got deeper in this depressive state.
Yeah.
And I see you smiling because I'm sure you can understand exactly. Once you take that crutch away, it's like this, that part of me. It's like, oh my gosh. And I, once again, I find myself pistol in mouth, ready to fucking, ready to call it. And I tell you, if at the time I was split up from my ex, we were living separately, and I had my daughters at my house, or at my apartment at the time. And my youngest daughter, and I was in that headspace of like, even they're here with me, like I took it as they're here with me, so I'm comforted by my kids being there instead of what the reality was. That I was about to do something that would just destroy them for the rest of their life. Right? Because imagine a 2-3-year-old walking out and seeing that, right? Yeah. And so, but my youngest daughter had walked out, and her little sleepiness, she's like 2 or 3, and she's just all head, as babies are, barely walking. I'll never forget it. And I have a gun in my hand, and she comes out and she's just, says something, Daddy, I'm sleepy. I want to snuggle, or something snuggle. I remember the word snuggle. And I just, my whole world closed in. I was like, what am I doing? And everything in my head broke down. I was like, and I started crying, and I didn't put my weapon down. I took it apart. I completely disenacted my weapon, set it to the side, and was like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
I was like, never again. And I just made a decision. I was like, I will never again allow myself to get to that spot. And if I ever feel close to it, I'm going to seek help. And anytime I've ever had issues since, I'm like, oh, I got to go for a checkup. I'm starting to think dark thoughts. So I'm going to go talk to the wizard, as you say, for a little bit, and get my little every other year little checkup. And that's what I've done ever since. That was 2017, I believe it was, when that happened. And ever since then, every year to year and a half, I'll go check up, and just, I think I'm okay, but I want to make sure I talk to a professional who can tell me that I'm okay and I'm doing 100%. The right things, right? Because we all get veiled by our own image of what we think is right and wrong. And so I always go back, and a lot of what I've been through and the things that I've seen and done, and a lot of my experiences are great in wisdom for me. But really what I've learned is those tools is what I've really tried to push, and not push sounds forced, but like to put out to folks in similar positions as myself. I had unfortunately, I started taking names in 2011 of people that I had known, that I had met, that had taken their life. And in 2018, I got to over 100, and I stopped.
Yeah.
and and there's been many since. And you get desensitized to it a little bit,
Mhm.
and it's unfortunate, right? And sometimes I really have to step back and go, man, it's a travesty to see what some of these situations really put people through, and that people's inability to see that it's almost of epidemic proportions.
Mhm.
I don't know the statistics of it. I'm not that smart when it comes to that stuff or analytical in that nature, but like, man, just the amount of people that, as I said when we started this, a simple conversation can really
Yeah.
open the door for so much, just, I don't even know, relief,
Mhm.
pressure off the shoulders, to know that somebody is just standing beside them. There's a phrase I use often. It's never below, never above, never below, always beside. And I didn't make that, obviously, but it's something that I picked up over the years, and it's something I really hung on to, and I put ingrained into my type of leadership. I might be in a position over you, but I'm right here with you. Let's level. Let's figure
Yeah.
out what we need to do. Um, I've never been a person that you work for me, you work with me,
Right.
and there's a distinction there, right? And it's a lot of what I give a lot of my success as a leader and as in my career. And I never thought I'd ever make chief. I thought
Mhm.
HM1 was it. I made HM1 at 15 years, and I was like, cool, I can retire. I'm done with the gun club. I'm out of here. I was literally about to start TAPS the month after I found out I picked up, because I was HYT. I mean,
Yeah.
16 years. So I was about to go to the transition class and prepare to separate. And then I picked up first class, and so um, and then here I am. I picked up first class in 21, the end of 21, and then I made chief this year, and so it's been wild to see that I even made it
Mhm.
this far, And there's a whole other story as to why that was so difficult as an E5 for so long. But as I said, as a leader, I try to put out so much of this. Walk with your
Yeah.
sailors, walk with them, meet them. Sometimes you have to go meet them where they're at, because not always are they going to come to you, and you really have to just think about that. And it's not you're not patronizing them, you're not antagonizing them. We sometimes coin it as intrusive leadership or intrusivity, as a person to person, to go in and be like, hey, how are you really today? But you know what? Some people need that.
Absolutely.
Some people need that,
Yes.
especially a lot of people in our demographic, in our world of military, retired, active, combat vets, people that are exposed to some of the traumatic things we've had in our life that, people experience and go through. you know, you're going to have to sometimes pull that out of us.
Mhm.
You're going to have to go somewhere and be like, hey, I know you say you're okay every day, but like, are you really?
Yep.
And so, and I made it a phrase. I have a thing I tell a lot of my sailors. I give them two opportunities. I said, I'm going to ask you first how you are. If you tell me you're okay, I'm going to ask you, how are you really? And if you tell me you're okay again, I'll leave you alone. But if you have the two chances, and if I still think you're lying to me, then I'll let you go, but we're circling back.
Yeah.
And you're going to get two chances again. And it's just something I try to pick up and instill into what I do every day. So
No, that's amazing. First and foremost, Joe, I want to commend you for speaking up about that night where you almost saw it all come to an end, especially being a chief and especially still being on active duty. I praise you so much for that, because I hope whoever sees this, if it's a young Marine, sailor, soldier, whoever it is, uh, that they can see that even within leadership, we have our moments that we can really fall hardcore. Um, Secondly, you said earlier, you're a man of faith. You believe in God, and I believe all of our babies that are given to us are given to us as a gift. So both of your daughters are both an equal portion of a gift to you. But I would have to say that night, your youngest daughter was used as an instrument to help you start your healing process.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Because
And yeah.
God forbid if she would have stayed asleep, God forbid if whatever inside of her didn't wake her up and say, let me go to daddy. And to me, that has to come from something far greater than us here on this earth to have put that into
Amen.
motion. Yes, Nate, amen, brother. You know what I mean? Um, to put that into motion and for you to still be here and then for you to be given the strength to speak up about that. Thank you so much because that's what we're about. That's how we take away the stigma of saying, "Hey, time out. I'm fucking hurting right now, dude." You know what I'm saying? Hey, chief,
Absolutely.
those medical records are still going to be here tomorrow, but I might not if I don't get the help. A or B, it, if us as leaders, like you said, when you talk about true intrusive leadership, it's more than just telling the commanding officer. I gave the safety brief on Friday and I asked everyone what they're doing, and everyone said that they're just going to be relaxing at home or in the barracks. That's not intrusive leadership. That's checking the box leadership, right? And I
Hmm.
tell a lot of people, how many times do you pick up the phone when you know you have young Fonseca, right? That it's not a secret about how much he's drinking, but how many times have you picked up the phone when he hasn't had to explain himself to the commanding officer just to say, hey, Fonseca, I want to see how you're doing with sobriety. I want to see how you're doing with your mental health, right? If we can start pushing that, like you said, it might sound very intrusive, but yeah, we push so many other things, right? Let's start pushing true compassion for the men and women, like you said, that work alongside of us to get the mission done. Because as great as we might think that we are for the Navy, Joe, as you know, there's 100 other fucking Joes ready to take your spot that can
Yep.
do your job just as better, if not even better than you can, right?
Yep.
But the
Absolutely.
one thing that we as leaders cannot do, which is meet mission, is if we don't have the buy-in from our sailors, right? And so you have made a very powerful statement, and like I said, I just wanted to commend you for that. My follow-on question with that is, why do you think out of all of your casualties, that one put
Mm.
all of everything in motion for that?
Well, I think multiple things. Oh, we got two
Yeah, we
mates
have.
going on.
No, you're reconnecting as well too.
Oh no.
Yeah, something happened.
Yeah.
Can you guys still hear me?
Okay, we still hear you're back on.
Okay.
I'm on the producer's end, so I see who's disconnected and who's not, and we are all back online now.
Okay,
So
great.
once again, just in case we got disconnected time, what I asked Joe was, out of all of his casualties, why does it seem like that one casualty is the one that put everything in motion for his PTSD and his mental health to kind of, let's call it what it is, go on the downward spiral?
Yeah, yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, man, like I was gonna say, I think it's multiple things. Because this was my second deployment at the time, and I had
Okay.
treated, multiple patients on my first deployment. Um, and so the second one, I think what really stuck out to me was right before that happened. So we flew into Marja, the dark, under the dark, first thing in the morning, and we brought the sun up. Right, we had got to our first position, brought the sun up, and we're catching fire from three sides, almost completely surrounded. We were catching fire from the fourth side, but they were just pushed up. We had a platoon pushed up ahead, so it was disconnected in the middle a little there. But our first casualty of the day was one of my corpsmen,
Oh wow.
RPG shrapnel, and so I, uh, I didn't know who it was, and I had my radio, and I didn't realize my radio, my 150 or my 152 had been, the channel had switched when I had hit the ground, and so I didn't hear the zap code because I knew all my corpsman zap codes, which is zap code is right, their initials, their last four, and their blood type, right?
Right.
So I had memorized all of my corpsmen. I had 10 of them, to include myself. And so I didn't know that he had gotten hit. And I saw the medevac bird come in. I'm like, what the hell? And, I'm face down in a ditch trying to cover up my medical officer because he kept poking his head up while we're getting shot at. I'm like, God damn it, Doc, you're way more important than I am. Stay down. And so, I was focused on that at the time and didn't realize it. And so my brain is just like, I'm calculated. I'm like, okay, somebody got hurt. Who is it? Who could it be? That's 3rd Platoon, Section 1, or or whatever it was. And who's up there? I know I got this corpsman, that corpsman. I knew the 2 corpsmen. Like, okay, I got these 2 guys up there, so they probably got some action and saw and helped somebody out. I want to make sure I check on them later. Like, that's my thought process. And see if they need something, supplies, whatever it is. 'Cause that's the job, right? That's senior line. And so about an hour later, the firefight kind of calmed down. This Lance Corporal comes across the field, and he's like, "Hey, Doc, I need a resupply." And I'm like, "For what?" And he's like, "My IFAC is empty. I had to use it to take care of Doc Morrison." And I was like, "Doc who?" And he was like, "Yeah, that's who got hit." And I was just like, "Motherfucker." I was like, "There's only 10 of us, and we just lost 1. I'm already 10% down, and we've been here 3 fucking hours." And I'm like, that was just set the tone for me. I was like, this is going to be a fucked up deployment. And so I was like, so I'm already in that headspace, right? And then it was about another hour and a half after that when Jake got hit. And so I'm already, head on a swivel. I'm against a berm. I'm just like, fuck, we're taking it from 3 sides. Like, it kind of calmed down a little bit. And I remember looking to my right, and I remember seeing Combat Camera, because he was always making jokes. Good dude, Clark, good dude. And I remember I panned back over, and I saw this Marine step out of the corner of a compound, and a single shot rang out. And then he just said, "Fuck," and hit the ground. And it was right there. Like, less than 20 feet right in front of me. I was like, oh. And I remember being like, oh, shit. And I got up and ran straight to him. And then we had a mortar section attached to us, so their corpsman ran up, and then the trauma team guys all ran out of the compound. And so I have 2 corpsmen, the weapons company corpsman, me. I had an HN that ran out too, and the medical officer. There's like 6 of us surrounding this guy in the open. And I remember, like, I was at his head. I was just, because the way he was hit, I was trying to pull his clips on the top of his head, so I cradled his head in my lap. As the other, because I only beat the other weapons platoon corpsman by like 10 seconds. So I got to him, and I had Jake's head in my lap, and I was unbuckling his buckles at the top so that somebody could pull the cord, the cummerbund cord, and just pull the whole front off the flak. And because we didn't have the interceptors back then, we had the plate carriers. It was great. And
Right.
so, and I just remember looking in his eyes and just, I don't know if any of you have ever experienced that, but just like, it's like a gloss, just as life leaves. And I knew, and I'm angry. I don't know what to feel. I'd never had somebody die in my arms like that, obviously. And so that had a big impact on me. And I didn't know who it was.
Yeah.
And that fucked me up. And I'm just like, how is there any Marine in my vicinity that I don't know? Right? Because even the weapons company guys, I was in weapons my first deployment. I knew all them.
Mm-hmm.
Even as senior line with Bravo Company, I knew all those guys. And so, like, there wasn't anybody I didn't know. And so, but we had a team of engineers. There was 4 of them. And I didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
And, man, so that's really what stuck with me. And, yeah, so I think that's primarily what it was. One, I was already in that headspace of, like, this is going to be fucked. Very different where my first deployment, they're 800, 600, or 800, 900 meters away, spraying and praying. This deployment, they're 100 meters across the field, trying to mow us down. Very different deployments as far as proximity and how close the fire was and things like that. So just in a different headspace, so it really prepped my brain space. And then this event happened. And it just, like I said, the primary thing that stuck with me was just that I had no idea who he was until he was dying in my arms. Yeah. And that just, the guilt of just like, how could you not know who this was?
Right.
And so that's really what carried me for a long time.
Yeah. I wonder too, and like you said, because I've learned so many fancy words now in college. This thing called and Doc Bear, correct me if I pronounce it wrong. He has to a lot of times. He's like, it's pronounced this way. I'm like, oh shit. But growing up, like you said, there was times where you were basically raising yourself, right? So being raised in such a high allostatic load, right, Doc Bear? Right? So allostatic, basically high trauma environment that changes your physical brain, right? Because we've learned that, right? Due to trauma, your brain actually physically changes,
Hmm.
and it permanently stays that way. So growing up with that, right, your brain changing, and then you going into combat and not healing from it properly, right? And now all of a sudden you have this second event that, like we say sometimes, the camel that broke the camel that broke the
The
straw's back,
straw that broke the camel's back. Yep.
the
Yeah.
straw
Yeah. I
that broke
gotcha.
the camel's back,
Yep. Yep.
right? Is probably what happened, man. But
Mm.
in that, if it brings any comfort, I don't know if it does. I know you've had a lot of years to work on that and heal from it, but one thing now is that Jake is now known by three other people that would have never known him.
Hmm. Hmm.
Jake's story is known by three other men that would have never known him, and it's because of you. And his legacy will continue. In that moment where you didn't feel that you knew him, now it almost seems like you are carrying his legacy for him. And I applaud you for that, brother. That takes a lot of healing. So thank you for
That,
sharing that
that,
story with us, man.
yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, yeah. His wife. I got connected with her after the fact. His mother. We did a
Yeah.
10-year reunion in
Okay.
2020, right before COVID hit. The Marja deployment had a 10-year reunion with the MEB commander, and I drove to that in Virginia in Quantico at the museum, and they're on the base. And his mom came out, and I got to meet her then,
Wow.
and we had connected on Facebook, but because every year February 13th was the day that he passed, and every year I usually put something on social media, and over the years she's always put a comment, thank you or whatever it was. Very because he had a stepmom and a mom, so his parents
Understood.
were separated, and so but yeah, she came out. His mother came out and met me, and just
Wow.
we both cried a little bit, and had a moment, and it was really really just a healing moment for me.
Good.
I'd had so much life happen at that point. I'd been through my divorce. I had been just got back from another deployment to Cuba at the time. Um, you know, just had a lot of life going on with dealing with some of the family court stuff too. Like that was really messing with me back then.
Yeah.
And just being able to see her was really healing as well. So yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's been full circle quite a few times.
Right on. Right on. Right on. So, well, with that, gentlemen, we've been going almost for 2.5 hours. I know it's late on the East Coast. Um, Me and Joe probably. Yeah, I mean it's 6:30 here. What is it? 7:30 for you?
No,
Eight
it's
thirty.
8:30 for me.
Okay.
8:30 for me. Yeah.
Um, but so we do always like to take the last couple of minutes to open it up to all of us. If there's anything, Doc Berry, Nate, or Joe that we missed, Doc Berry,
Oh no, his mic's messing up on him.
you're muted, brother.
Well, I don't think he's not muted. It doesn't show he's muted. It just wasn't
Oh
working.
yeah.
Yeah. Darn it. No, still don't hear you, brother.
Let's see.
Oh,
Can you hear me now?
I
And
Yeah.
you
do.
hear?
Yes.
Okay. It's amazing what happens when you unplug it and plug the stupid thing back in. I love technology. All right. Well, first of all, considering what's happening tomorrow, happy birthday, Marines.
All right.
Happy
Right.
birthday.
Rob.
250 years. And the second thing is, this was forwarded on to me by another corpsman who was on, Mitch Can. I've known Mitch for a long time here. Hang on just a second. And he's a corpsman like yourself. And this is the author of this is anonymous. And I've sent it to Luis and I've read this before. Teach me, instructor. I need to know more. Is being a doc different since I'll be in the Corps? Marine boot camp is over. Now comes your class. War will come quickly. Please teach me fast. Triage and cut downs, chest wounds and such. You say battle dressings will be my best friend. Tourniquets, hemostats, and it all starts again. Trachs, amputations, and of course CPR. White phosphorus and AK wounds. I'm with you so far. Give us your wisdom. Help us prepare. For when the wounded start falling, you won't be there. My tour is long over. Do you mind if I share some thoughts so that the next doc will be more prepared? There may be a Marine bleeding, and as you fight for his life, he'll whisper, "If I die, Doc, will you please write my wife?" Teach me, instructor, when the firefight is done, to ignore that the corporal had a wife and 2 sons. Or when the booby trap smoke clears and the medvac's in, the man in the poncho is my very best friend. You've helped me save lives, but it's not over yet. Teach me, instructor, how to forget.
Mm, it's powerful.
Yeah.
Man,
I'll send that to you, Joe.
I appreciate it.
Thanks
Man.
for
That's
being
great.
with us tonight. Thanks for being so open.
100%.
And
Yes.
we'd love to have you back if you'll do it again.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Amen. Certainly.
I appreciate that. Thank you guys so much. It's been a privilege. I hope that in all the things that we do, the biggest thing is just starting the dialogue is the first step. And it's so often that people make that the hardest step.
Mhm.
Talking is something we do every day. Every day. Everybody talks every day. It's just talk about that.
Yeah.
Just talk about that.
Absolutely. And with that, once again, Joe, thank you for coming on. Yes, starting the conversation is the first step. If we can talk about drippy dicks, we can definitely talk about what's going on in
I
between.
have a fantastic story about that. My first day with my first unit.
Yeah, right.
I-
Isn't that strange? We can sit here and talk about the nastiest
oh my gosh.
STD or you know, I shared them before. Like one time we came out of the field, I was stationed in Camp Lejeune. Make a long story short, we're in the barracks, and my Marines were like, "Doc, you got to check us for ticks." And I was like, "All right." And they were all standing in line, butt ass naked. I'm like, "All right,
Yep.
now bend over, spread open your cheeks." I'm looking at 20 assholes, but I can't sit here and tell my Marines, "Hey, brothers, I'm fucked up in the head," right?
Oh my gosh. I had my first night in the barracks. I had a corporal come to my room at 3 a.m. and bang on my door and pull his pants to his ankles and say, "What's wrong with it?" And my only reaction was, "It's too small."
Right?
And
Yeah.
and he was very upset with me. And he ended up being one of my great friends. Master Sergeant,
Yeah.
retired now, and he was a 52, a tow gunner at the time. But he formation that Monday. That was Friday night. Saturday morning, and I was like, "Dude, I can't fucking do anything for you. It's Saturday. Like, what do you want me to fucking do at 3 a.m? Like, what do you? I'm going to put a shot in your butt. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, mind you, I just checked in that Friday. Like, I was brand new. And Monday morning, we get PT, come back, and I was like, we break from formation, and Staff Sergeant's like, "Hey, if you got to go to medical, Doc, go to medical, whatever, for sick call." And I yell, I say, "Hey, Corporal Raymond." I was like, "Make sure you go to sick call so I can take care of your dirty dick." And in front of the whole platoon.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Fuck you, Doc, fuck you." And I look at my staff sergeant, he was like, "You're gonna be just fine here. You're gonna be
Yep.
just fine." And so it was so great. It was just what do you do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, but once again, thank you. And another thing, I always like to recount things that I learned with our guests is, leadership is not just taking responsibility for the shop and the mission, but leadership's responsibility is to take care of its sailors and Marines, soldiers and airmen. And I think we can all do a little bit better job of that. All it takes is sitting someone down and talking to them for a few minutes to build that rapport, to build that trust, and to show your junior personnel that are working so hard for us that we really truly care about them and know they are not just another number that comes rotating to the military. For the military in general, yes, but for us personally, it's more than that. So, Joe, once again, thank you so much, brother. Thank you for what you're doing for the Navy. Thank you for trying to push out the best product out there at Recruit Training Command. I know it's not always easy. I know a lot of times y'all's hands are tied as well too, as far as how we can push forward. But I think thank you for enlightening us as well that there are some things implemented at boot camp to try to get these young sailors the right tools in their tool bag to meet these missions that we're going to call them on, or just because in the nature of the military is a hard fucking job in
Mm-hmm.
itself. So thank you for shedding light on that. and let's keep pushing this message of positivity, compassion, and caring. With that, you guys, thank you all so much for this evening. If you all have made it this far, please like, share, and subscribe. We really would appreciate that. Have a good evening, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.
All righty.
Have a good evening.